Members, we've got 5 minutes. Please get to the chamber. Members, come to the chamber. We got 5 minutes.
The House will come to order. Members, our prayer today will be given by Reverend Fred Franks. He is a pastor at Island Church in Orange Beach, and he is the guest of Representative Holt Jones.
Let's bow our heads and hearts in a word of prayer. Our Father in heaven, thank you for this beautiful day, and thank you for your mercy and grace in our life. Thank you for the privilege we have to live in the United States of America and the freedoms that we enjoy. And we pray protection over all of those who provide and protect the freedoms that we have. Our hearts are filled with gratitude that we live in this beautiful state, sweet home, Alabama. And we are grateful. We're grateful for this week, this Passion Week, and all this week represents. Good Friday, the fact that Jesus died on the cross of Calvary for our sins, that he who knew no sin became sin, that we might be the righteousness of God in Christ. And we thank you for Easter and the power of the gospel, the fact that Jesus rose from the dead. And so thank you, Lord, for all that you have provided for us. We pray for this legislative session, and we humbly ask for guidance and wisdom. We come with humility of heart and pray that we will serve the people that we represent. We pray that we will have humility to listen to different perspectives and to seek solutions for the benefit of all who live in Alabama. We pray for strength to persevere and to do all we can to make this a better place to live. So we pray blessing over every man and every woman who will serve and work today. And I thank you for them. And Lord, we always want to be grateful and thankful and good reflectors of the glory of God. So to you be all the glory, honor, and praise. I pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Members, today's Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Collins Hopkins. She is a 7th grader at Liberty Park School in Vestavia Hills, and she is paging for our Pro Tem Pringle.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic
Clerk call roll.
Mr. Speaker, Almond, Baker, Bedsole, Blackshear, Bolton, Boyd, Bracy, Brinyark, Brown, Butler, Carnes, Chestnut, Clark, Klaus, Collins, Colvin, Crawford, Daniels, Datcher, Drummond, Dubose, Easterbrook, Ellis, England, Ensler, Estes, Faulkner, Fiddler, Fincher, Fort, Garrett, Gidley, Gavan, Gibbons, Gray, Hall, Hammett, Harbison, Harrison, Hassel, Hendricks, Hill, Hulk, Jones, Hollis, Hulsey, Hurst, Ingram, Jackson, Jones, Keel, Kirkland, Lamb, Lands, Lawrence, Lee, Lipscomb, Lomax, Lovern, Marcus, McCampbell, McClammy, Mooney, Moore M, Moore P, Morris, Oliver, Paramore, Pascal, Pettis, Pringle, Rafferty, Ream, Reynolds, Rigsby, Robbins, Robertson, Ross, Sellers, Sells, Shaver, Shaw, Shiree, Simpson, Smith, Sorrells, Stothagen, Standridge, Starnes, Stringer, Stubbs, Tillman, Travis, Treadaway, Underwood, Wadsworth, Warren, Whit, Wharton, Wilcox, Wood D, Wood R, Woods, Yarborough.
68 members have answered roll. Quorum is present. House is ready to transact business. Before we get started, we've got some guests in the gallery. The Alabama Assisted Living Association is guest of our entire body. Certainly appreciate y'all being with us today. The chair recognizes Representative Bracy for a special recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Before we get started on the recognition, I'd like to just wish my wife a happy 19th wedding anniversary. Today, she put up with your boy 19 years, so I had to do a little something special for her this morning before I hit the road. But happy anniversary, baby. I know you're out there somewhere. It gives me great pleasure today to recognize someone that's been a mentor in my life for a long time. I had the pleasure of meeting this gentleman when I was in the 9th grade. And for those of you that's around my age, if you played football in the state of Alabama, and if you happen to be in the 5A classifications, chances are you did not win a state championship when you played in the 1990s. Mr. Speaker, I like to ask for floor privileges to be granted for Coach Ben Harris, Ms. Gwen Harris, Ms. Bianca Harris P. Ryan, Mr. Brian McRae, and Ms. Cassandra McAvoy.
Any objections? Hearing no objection, floor privilege is granted. Reverend Bracy, you're further recognized.
Thank you so much. Growing up in Pritchard, Alabama, we had a lot of difficulties in our community, and we had something that we considered to be a real pillar in our community in the Mobile area. We had this gentleman, Coach Ben Harris. Coach Ben Harris was more than just a coach to us. He was more of a father figure for so many of the young men in our community. And it was not only coach, it was coach and also his coaching tree. I was very close with the late Coach William Carpenter. We had Coach Petway. We had Coach Tank Brown, Coach Bradley, and so many of them that just poured into us as young men. And you've created just great athletes and just great young men throughout our community, to the likes of Sherman Williams, Damian Craig, DeMarco McNeil, DeAndre Green, and just so many others, Coach. And we just want to say thank you so much. This House a couple of weeks ago had the opportunity to actually vote and pass a House joint resolution that was passed by the Senate last week and was signed by the governor. And we like to ask the clerk to please read the resolution.
Whereas highest commendations and congratulations are hereby presented to Coach Ben Harris for his induction into the National High School Sports Hall of Fame as a member of the class of 2025. And whereas the induction ceremony will take place on June 14th, 2025 in Canton, Ohio, the birthplace of professional football and home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Coach Harris's inclusion in this elite group, which includes legends like Warren Moon, Ray Lewis, and Michael Vick, underscores his extraordinary legacy in the sport. And whereas a product of Toulminville High School in Mobile, Alabama, and a former quarterback at Alabama State University, Coach Harris's journey from player to coach exemplifies the profound impact one individual can have on the game. His most significant coaching achievement came during his tenure at Blount High School in Pritchard, where he orchestrated a stunning turnaround of a program that had struggled for years. And whereas Coach Harris's arrival at Blount in 1988 marked the beginning of a new era. In his first season, the Leopards posted a 6-6 record, including the school's first ever playoff win. Over the next decade, Ben Harris's teams would become a powerhouse in Alabama high school football, winning 4 state championships and earning 8 regional titles. And whereas, under his leadership, Blount compiled a remarkable 100-win, 30-loss record with a playoff mark of 30-5. His success helped solidify Blount High School as one of the premier programs in the state, with runner-up finishes in 1991 and 1995 rounding out his legacy. And whereas Ben Harris's coaching career went beyond just wins and losses, it was about building character and empowering young athletes. His influence extended to both his players and the broader community. And whereas recognized as a leader on and off the field, he was named Mobile County Citizen of the Year in 1996. He was selected Blount High School Teacher of the Year in 1992. He also received multiple accolades for his coaching prowess, including being named Coach of the Year by the Alabama Sports Writers Association in 1990 and 1997. His coaching accomplishments were further celebrated when he was named the NFL High School Coach of the Year in 1998. And whereas following his back-to-back state titles at Blount in 1996 and 1997, Harris transitioned to a coaching role at his alma mater, Alabama State University, where he served as an assistant coach for 5 years and briefly as interim coach. He later returned to high school football at Daleville in 2000 before returning to Blount for his final coaching stint from 2003 to 2008. And whereas Coach Harris's remarkable career has earned him induction into the Alabama High School Athletic Association Hall of Fame, the Alabama State Athletics Hall of Fame, the Baldwin County Hall of Fame, as well as the Mobile Sports Hall of Fame, cementing his place in Alabama's football history. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the legislature of Alabama, both houses thereof concurring, that Coach Ben Harris, a transformative figure in Alabama high school football, is heartily commended and congratulated for earning a place in the 2025 National High School Football Hall of Fame. And this resolution is offered to him in highest regard and with warm wishes for continued success in all of his endeavors.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, may we have brief remarks from Coach Harris?
Yes, sir, we certainly can.
Thank you. Coach Harris?
Coach? Coach, maybe you can explain the NIL to us when you're up here. That might be.
Yes, sir. First of all, let me say it's an honor and a blessing to be here today. I'm real honored about it. In fact, like you said, I taught him at Blount High School. I had no idea that I would be getting an award like this just for doing something that you love. I love helping kids, still doing it. And then I'm just ecstatic about it. Then, like I said, when I first got to Blount, we started off with 6 players. I just kept on trying to get them out, and I had no idea we was going to win state championship. I was just trying to have a winning season. But the Lord blessed us on and on. And then more than anything else, I'm glad to see them doing good in life. I got some coaches, principals, teachers, some of them doing the same thing like Napoleon doing. So I'm real proud of that. So now I just want to thank my wife and daughters for always being there. It's a lot of high school coaches should be in the same place I'm in because they deserve it. But I'm blessed to be here today. So I stand for all them coaches that do all that coaching day in and day night. I love high school football, and I love the state of Alabama. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Coach, before you sit down, I'd like to ask the Mobile and Baldwin delegation to come down and we'll present this House Joint Resolution.
Also in the gallery, we'd like to recognize the guest of Representative Troy Stubbs. His father, Charlie Stubbs, his mother, Sandy Stubbs, and Lucas Stubbs. And some of you might remember Charlie Stubbs used to be the offensive coordinator at the University of Alabama. Today's a football day. Roll Tide. Also, we have Excel Academy from Calhoun County, a guest of the Calhoun County delegation. Let's give them a big hand for being with us today. And we have the ambassadors from Blount County Schools, guest of Representative David Standry. It's good to have you guys with us today as well. Thank y'all for being here. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request that leaves of absence be granted for absent members.
Any objections? Hearing no objections, leaves of absence, members are excused. The chair further recognizes the gentleman from Lee.
Mr. Speaker, I have a report.
House of Representatives, your Standing Committee on Rules begs leave to report that it has carefully examined the Journal of the House for the 21st legislative day and finds the same to be correct. Signed, Representative Joe Lovern, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the reading of the journal at length for the 21st legislative day be dispensed with.
Are there any objections? Hearing no objections, the reading of the journal is dispensed with. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Speaker Pro Tem Pringle, for the purpose of making announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, Don't forget your online statement of economic interest must be completed and filed with the Ethics Commission by no later than April 30th. Pick up your bills from the LSA office. It's right there. Pick up your bills. Changing the Course art show will be tonight from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Alabama Archives and History Building. The Professional Firefighters of Alabama Legislative Reception from 5 to 7 p.m. at RSA Plaza. Wednesday, the Gulf United Metro Business Organization, you all know it and love it as Gumbo, will hold their legislative reception Wednesday evening from 5 to 7 at Ravello. Innovate Alabama's Innovation Day reception is from 5 to 7 Wednesday at RSA Plaza. And never forget the ALCAT prayer breakfast, as always, Thursday morning from 7 to 8 at the RSA Plaza. Mr. Speaker, I move that when we adjourn today, we leave the journal open, allow the clerk to complete his paperwork, and we reconvene on Thursday, April the 17th at 9:30 a.m. Thursday.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion prevails. Clerk now receive reports from standing committees. Receive those reports throughout the day. The House is now in position to introduce bills and resolutions.
House Joint Resolution number 227 by Representative Pringle, commending Mayor Sandy Stimpson on his retirement. House Joint Resolution number 228 by Representative Jackson, commending and congratulating the Jackson High School boys basketball team and coaches for winning the 2025 Alabama High School Athletic Association 4A state championship. House Joint Resolution number 232 by Representative Wood D, commending the Honorable Judge Myron Calvin Milford Jr. on his career and service to the city of Lafayette and the state of Alabama. House Joint Resolution number 233 by Representative McCampbell, mourning the death and celebrating the life of the Honorable Robert Lee Wilder. Senate Joint Resolution number 65 by Senator Wagner, mourning the death and honoring the life of Donald Wayne Armstrong.
Move for adoption.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Chair, I'd like to recognize the lady from Mobile, Representative Drummond, for a moment of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, members. I wanted to take this opportunity because we all know and we pray every time we meet in this galley. And I know that we have been praying for one of our own. And today, he is an answered prayer. We look at him and he is back among us. So I want every member of this house to stand and applaud the blessing that God has given us to return Representative Sam Jones to us.
Sam, it sure is good to see you back. A lot of prayers in this chambers went up for you, and it's good to have you back with us. Clerk, call the next resolution. Okay, Mr. Clerk, let's call the first uncontested local bill, please.
On page 54 of the calendar, House Bill number 549 by Representative Sells, relating to Butler County.
Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock and machine, the members will vote. Clerk will lock machine, record the vote. 60 ayes, 0 nays. BIR has been adopted. Question now is final passage of 554. Clerk will unlock machine, and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 14 ayes, 0 nays. HB 459 has passed. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 54 of the calendar, House Bill number 550 by Representative Sells, relating to Butler County.
Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 55 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. The question now is final passage of 550. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 10 ayes, 0 nays. HB 550 has passed. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 54 of the calendar, House Bill number 551 by Representative Sells, relating to Butler County.
Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 56 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Question now is final passage of HB 551. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 9 ayes, 0 nays. HB 551 has passed. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 54 of the calendar, House Bill number 552 by Representative Hammett, relating to Covington County.
Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 56 ayes, 0 nays. The BR has been adopted. Question now is final passage of 552. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 14 ayes, 0 nays. HB 552 has passed. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a resolution.
Clerk, see the resolution.
House Resolution number 236 by the House Rules Committee, the special order calendar.
Chairman Lovern.
Move for adoption.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call first bill on special order calendar.
On page 40 of the calendar, House Bill number 526 with substitute by Representative Brown, relating to the Alabama 21st Century Fund.
Chairman Brown, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What we have is House Bill 526. And what this does, it allows for a one-time transfer from the 21st Century Fund to the Department of Commerce to establish 3 overseas trade offices in Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan, and to staff up on the rural development side for grant writing in the more rural areas of Alabama.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative,
Yes, ma'am.
with all of the things that's going on in Washington, what will be the impact of setting up these trade offices in these various countries?
Well, it would be beneficial to us because currently we're way behind on that. Georgia has 12, North Carolina has 7.
Now, y'all know we don't do what other states do. I know I've been up here a lot of times saying, so-and-so state got this, and y'all say, so what?
But it makes a difference.
But I'm just wondering, especially with all this tariffs and things of that nature going on, I know Alabama needs the growth and we need the relationship because from my perspective, it would help especially all of our rural counties that seriously need development in order for them to have a better tax base to be able to take care of themselves. But I just hope we don't get bogged down and there's not a negative response as a result of us establishing this relationship with these countries that we ought to be establishing relationship with.
Well, they're trading partners of us already: Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan.
Yeah, but look at all them tariffs been put on them.
Well,
I mean, it ain't no because when we're talking about the citizens of Alabama that we're here to represent and to look out for, and I know we need it.
Right.
And it's just that I don't want us to make sure that we don't have any type of negative blowback from trying to establish it. And I just, I listened to, I think that one of their counselors that came in today and talked about a better trading partners and establishing more businesses in the state of Alabama, which we need. And on that note, I would hope that when they bring these additional businesses to the state, that we would check out our counties that are deficient in having some type of manufacturing or whatever, and prioritize and make sure that they benefit from it, and that we don't bring new industries and put them all in the same place. And when you do that, don't forget Birmingham and Jefferson County. We like some of that growth too. But that's the only thing I'm worried about. I know it's something we needed for 100 years probably, and I'm glad that we step it into the 21st century. It's just that we need to be careful that we don't have any blowback from it, and let us make sure that all of our counties, especially those that are in serious need of a strong tax base, that they're included in this relationship, this new trade relationship that we're starting.
I agree with you. Thank you, Representative.
Chair thanks, lady. Chair recognizes the lady from Madison, Representative Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
If you follow with me on your bill on page 3, you indicated the uses, and then the letter C, it says, in addition to any uses permitted by the law, the Fund of Alabama 21st may be used in any manner consistent with this article as determined by resolution. Help me with that.
Tell me where you are. Page 3.
Page 3, lines 67 through 70 through 70. So you told us that it would be for opening new offices, and also for rural, but then it has the final statement says that there are other, in addition to those, other uses may be permitted. I'm interested in what would those other uses be?
Well, the way that the 21st Century Fund was set up, it's from the lawsuit involving tobacco products back several years ago.
Sure.
And the 16 million of it is dedicated towards economic development. And what we usually use that for is just for debt service on bonds for economic development through the Department of Commerce. And so it just stays with that language for economic development. But this is just a one-time transfer of $5 million to get those offices up and going and getting the rural development side with the grant writers.
So when I read that, I don't get that same feeling.
It's economic development is what consistent with that.
I understand it's economic development, but it says any uses permitted by law. So you're saying anything that's permitted by the 21st century.
Right, which spelled out that fund was for economic development or debt service on economic development bonds.
Okay, and then it says by resolution of authority. So who is there a 21st century board? I remember when we did this, it was in the probably mid-90s.
Yeah, that would be right, because on that amendment, what cleaned it up was it had how much the fund had to have in 2000, 2005,
right,
and that sort of thing. So
right, I see that. So it struck through all of that.
I think that cigarette lawsuit was mid 90s, I believe.
if I'm remembering correctly, and then you're only using 16 million. My confusion or my issue was clearly understanding what this meant since you have amended this process.
It's saying what the biggest thing that we are doing on the amendment that became a sub is we just cleaned up that language that spelled out what happened in 2000, 2005.
Okay, so let's go back since you cleaning up language. If you start on page 2, starting on line 51, that is what you consider cleaning up language, the amounts of the special funds. Is
Right,
that what
yes,
you
ma'am.
call? Okay. So you deleted lines 49 to 51. And then the additional cleanup language has to do for paying for projects and project costs or paying for bonds. And then for the fiscal year, that one-time transfer of $5 million
Yes, ma'am.
from the 21st Century Fund. And so the only thing that I was saying, my concern was, what exactly did that last statement on page 67, line 67 through 70, you indicated to me that it really deals with the other part of the 21st century that we're not dealing with or that are not a part of this particular bill. That is what it's dealing with.
Correct. The other part of that is the debt service on bonds.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Chair thanks the lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Marengo, Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Gentleman Yale,
Yes, sir.
few quick questions. Right now, that I see that fund has about 74 million
Right.
in it. So we are actually going to just be dealing with about 16 million,
Well, really 5 million.
really 5 million.
We're taking 5 million and putting it in, transferring into the fund from the fund to the Department of Commerce to get the offices started overseas.
Okay,
Right.
and now I noticed in there it said authority in one place and then fund in another one. So the authority is one board, and then we have a funding arm of that board. Is that what it is, or just are we establishing the funding side now?
I can't hear what.
You couldn't.
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay. Let me clear my throat. What I was asking, we have an authority right now. And I was asking if that authority, I noticed that we now have a funding side on it. Is this a separate setup, or is it just that authority has set up a funding mechanism?
What it's doing is it's the State Industrial Development Authority. It's giving them permission to transfer that 5 million.
Okay.
That's the authority, is the State Industrial Development Authority.
So they are given the opportunity to transfer that 5 million. And I don't have the sub, but there was an area in the as introduced bill. It was beginning on line 66. I think yeah. It began on, that's as introduced.
Oh, if amounts in the special fund are no longer needed, that
Yeah.
to pay obligations of the Alabama 21st Century Authority, amount in the fund shall be used for the following: to pay for project costs, it's defined in section 41, to pay debt service on bonds issued by the Alabama Incentive Authority, a one-time appropriation of $5 billion shall
Right.
be transferred. Yeah.
And then I saw that part of the thing that this funding is to do is to deal with rural. So can you give me some understanding of how that part will work, especially how is that through commerce going to work?
Sure. One thing they're going to do is they're going to go into the rural counties and take an assessment of what projects are underway, which ones are in the early stages, and then look at economic development factors in those counties. And out of that too, each county is going to get their own economic development plan from the Department of Commerce. And this will allow them to hire some additional staff on the grant writing side so that they can actually go into, say, Marengo and go in and work with your economic development people in Marengo County to try to come up with write grants to get some federal money down to try to help them.
And I know that's really one of my concerns is with what's going on with the federal government. I think maybe it is good that we are starting to look at some changes that we need to make in order to be able to handle the needs and the services that our citizens are going to need, because I don't know how much we can depend on that, on the federal government grants in the future. So I think it's very important that we begin to look at what our strategy is as a body, as a legislative body. It's going to be to deal with all these changes, because the needs aren't going to stop. And instead of the citizens looking at the federal government, guess who they're going to be looking at?
Right.
It'll be us.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Leeds,
Hey, man. Thank
Chairman Lovern. Be the fourth person to speak on the BIR.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to appreciate you being clear with the explanation of this bill. I think it's needed and appreciate you bringing it today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate it.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Question for the body is adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. 95 ayes, 0 nays. BIR has been adopted. Chairman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We need to adopt the sub.
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
a sub from the Ways and Means.
Yes, sir. What we did in the sub was as I was telling Representative Hall, it had old language in there that detailed specific amounts for dates in 2000, 2005, 10. So we just cleaned that up and detailed it with the amount to be retained in the fund is 16 million, and that's the bare minimum in the fund. Mr. Speaker, I
Okay,
call
you've heard the explanation of the sub. Representative Warren, you want to speak on the sub or the bill? Question for the body is adoption of the substitute. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. 99 ayes, 0 nays. Substitute has been adopted. Chairman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I call for final passage.
Chair recognizes the lady from Macon, Representative Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Brown, I
Yes,
hate
ma'am.
to tell you, but I didn't get a chance to read your bill
Yes, ma'am.
in detail, and I've been listening to you talk, and I've been kind of confused as to what you're saying. So can you just quickly summarize for me what you're doing and how you're doing?
Sure. I'll be glad to. We set up the 21st Century Fund years ago out of the cigarette settlement fund, the tobacco settlement fund. And what we use that for largely is debt service on economic development bonds. And so only one time in 2015, they took $20 million out of it and put it into the general fund for debt service. And what we're looking to do with this is just do a one-time transfer of $5 million to the Department of Commerce to establish 3 overseas trade offices in Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea. We have one in Germany that has a part-time employee, and we want to staff that one up, make him full-time, but then also put funds towards rural development in Alabama to provide for grant writers and to provide economic development plans tailored towards more rural counties.
Now, they already have grant writers in place, right? So we're not trying to get.
No, right. This is just working with those people, and then also they would come from the state to be, individualized, whatever you need, that sort of thing.
I think what's concerning me now, I'm from a small rural county, and we have been very fortunate now to be on the radar of getting companies coming in. And what's happening to us in these rural communities, we don't have the resources to really deal with the infrastructure. We're trying to get, the workforce development and everything ready. So I'm kind of reluctant of saying, let's take money out of this fund to put in foreign funds when we're still suffering in our rural communities trying to meet the needs of our incoming industry. As a matter of fact, now I need to see Stefina and Ellen, because I have a situation that's really crucial that's going to bring in 168 million, hire 100 and some people, but we're having problems now for little problems. So it really concerns me that we can send monies to these foreign offices when we're sitting up here in rural Alabama still trying to make economic development work in our communities. So that's the part I think I'm hearing that's disturbing to me, is that we need everything we got in this account to go to rural communities in Alabama.
Well, one of the issues on that, what you're saying is, and Representative McCampbell brought up that we need to be more proactive. So wherever your companies are based, if we have a better presence overseas, we can address that in that area versus having to have them come to us or vice versa. So being more proactive and working with those overseas companies that want to come to Macon County, and we can reach out to them in South Korea or Taiwan or Japan or Vietnam. They're not glued to that one. It's just a Pacific region. And that's where the growth is happening internationally, is in Southwest Asia and Asia in general. So this
like
allows
I say,
them
when
to,
you look at what's happening in this country now with our relationship with foreign countries, they really don't even want us no more. We're sitting here fighting in a war now with tariffs and all this other stuff. And really, when you start seeing that people have stopped coming to this country, really don't want us going to their countries, I don't think that this should be a priority on our listing when we got these rural counties that are suffering so.
but what you just said makes it really more important than ever. If you have companies that don't want to come to the United States, then we need to go out and then convince them to come to the United States and to come to Alabama. When Georgia has 12 overseas offices, South Carolina has 7, 8, North Carolina has as many, Tennessee. We're one of the few that only has one office.
Well,
so we're not reaching them.
I think we need to watch that. That's today. But what's happening in this country, what's going to happen tomorrow, none of us know. So we can't hold tight that these other states are doing this, because if you watch it pretty closely, they're going to be snatching back too. Everybody's going to start snatching back with what's happening in this country with our foreign country relations at this particular time. So, I hear what you're saying, but coming from a rural community that's really trying to develop, because see, we don't have no other resources. We can't tax anybody. We can't snatch money from anywhere else. So we're having to depend on economic development coming in to give us our flow and our monies in that system. So I think if this money has been designated to help rural communities with economic development, we need to try to keep as much money as we can there to help these rural counties. As a matter of fact, I just said we had a brief meeting today with the Black Belt Caucus. And again, those are our issues. Those are true issues for us. And we're struggling so until I think that we need to be kind of careful right now We don't need to be rushing anything with foreign countries from Alabama, not knowing what the effects are going to be from the overall picture where our country is with the relationship with foreign countries. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Chair thanks the lady. Question for the body now is final passage as substituted of HB 256. Clerk will unlock machine. The members will vote. Clerk lock machine recorded vote. 96 ayes, 0 nays. HB 526 has passed as substituted.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 50 of the calendar, House Bill number 506 with substitute by Representative Lovern relating to off-road vehicles.
Chairman Levin, before you get started, let me recognize some people in the gallery, please. First, I'd like to recognize a guest of Rick Ream. Matt Hatcher is the Henry County EMA Director. If he's up in the gallery, stand up for us. Thank you for being with us today, Matt. Also in the gallery, we had Happy Fulford and Sherry Fulford. They used to be government affairs workers for University of South and Auburn, respectively. Thank you guys for being with us today. Also, we have employees of Central Alabama Electric Co-op, Prattville, Alabama, the guest of Starnes, Robbins, Betso, Stubbs, and Smith. Thank you for being with us and what you do for our state. Thank you. Chairman Lovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. HB 506 is meant to help our first responders out there that have ATVs in their department. We have several that have purchased this equipment to greater meet the needs, and we need to align the state law for them to be able to use that equipment as long as they do it in a safe manner and adhere to the policies of the department and meet several other variables, and helps them with their insurance they need for that operation of that equipment. And with that, I ask for the BIR.
Next question is adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Recorded vote. 99 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, we have a committee substitute.
You care to explain your substitute to us, please?
Yes, sir. It's a very simple amendment we had that corrected a misspelled word and then removed some lines that we put it more in line with the insurance requirements and the amount of liability with county and municipalities. And with that, ask for passage as a substitute.
Yeah, you heard the gentleman's explanation of the substitute. Chair recognizes the lady from Madison, Representative Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you, you talked about the licensing. Would you look at lines 47 through 51 on page 2? I guess I really should start at 44. I'm saying, so the language prior to this is the language that you used to substitute it, I'm hoping. I hope that's what I thought I heard.
The substituted language would be if it was in the original bill, it removed lines 64 through 75.
Okay. And that dealt with insurance coverage?
What that did is put it in line with all state immunity, and for county and municipalities and these departments do not meet the threshold for that. It backed it down to where county and municipal coverage and to the individual insurance for the agency.
So now you're saying those that were covered in those lines that you just deleted are covered in the language that is used, say, on page, starting on lines 44 through 51?
Yes, ma'am. That they are required to be an authorized emergency vehicle shall be covered under the applicable agency's insurance policy. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your questions.
Okay, you've heard the explanation of the sub. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. 100 ayes, 0 nays. Substitute has been adopted. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If there's no further questions, ask for final passage as substitute.
That is the questions. Final passes as substituted. Clerk will lock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. HB 506 as substituted has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 38 of the calendar, House Bill number 447 with substitute by Representative Garrett relating to school buses.
Chairman Garrett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Back in the 60s, when the community college system was developed, they were under the Department of Education. And one of the perks that was offered to students attending community colleges was that you could ride the local school bus to community college. Now, that was decades ago. Since that time, the community college system is no longer under the State Board of Education. People have not been riding high school school buses or city school buses or county school buses to community colleges in decades. I have had a couple of members who shared with me that their father or a family member had done this in the past, but that's no longer has not happened in decades. Recently, however, in one of our counties, a woman in her 50s called to say basically that she needed to ride the school bus to community college, and she had some friends with her. And the superintendent told her, well, we don't offer that service. She said, well, the law says you have to. He said, no, it doesn't. Turned out the county attorney looked at it and says, actually, the law does say that. So this is repealing the provision that would require that non-students that are not, people that are not students in K through 12 public schools have the ability to ride one of those school buses by that local Board of Education to the community college. The substitute that will be offered in a minute clarifies that if you're an enrolled student going to community college for dual enrollment or career tech or anything like that, you're not exempted from this. Only for adults or people who are not enrolled students will no longer be able to request a ride on the school bus to community college. With that, I ask for the BIR.
That is questions. Adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, move for adoption of the sub, which I just explained.
Chairman's explained the sub. Clerk will unlock the machine. And members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 99 ayes, 0 nays. Substitute has been adopted. Mr. Chairman.
I move for final passage.
That's question final passage as substituted of HB 447. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 99 ayes, 0 nays. HB 447 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 48 of the calendar, House Bill number 509 by Representative Sorrells relating to game breeder license.
Reverend Sorrells, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, the captive deer industry has been around since most of us were before we were even born. First recorded stocking of deer in Alabama back in 1925. Alabama underwent an extensive white-tailed deer restocking program during the middle of the 20th century. Deer stocked from several states: Arkansas, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Ohio, Texas, and Wisconsin brought great deer to our state, but also brought their genetics. Captive deer were used to restock over 65% of Alabama counties. The captive deer industry has been around a long time and has contributed to deer hunting in Alabama. Before the licensed game breeder statute we have today, a chronic wasting disease animal monitoring program was instituted through the Alabama Department of Ag and Industries. Until recently, licensed game breeders tested more deer than anyone. For over 20 years of CW testing, there have been no CWD positives detected in a game breeder's facility in Alabama. The Alabama Department of Conservation has carried out an unprecedented taking of an Alabama farmer's deer without regard to disease connection. To my knowledge, no other state has proposed or acted upon such a punitive measure without regard to an actual disease connection. This has taken all place under an emergency rule by conservation on December 30th, 2024. Under this rule, conservation will draw a radius of 25 miles around the positive result of where the animal was located, which they say gives them the authority to go into a high game breeding facility and take out 10% of those animals for testing. Now, the only way to test that they say is to do it through killing the deer and then testing the deer after that. This rule became a reality for one deer breeder in Northwest Alabama in the last couple of months. HB 509 allows for the continuation of the current CWD monitoring program through the Alabama Department of Ag and Industries. Any death of an animal in a breeding facility that is greater than 12 months old is submitted for testing and recorded on a death loss form. There are annual examinations of clinical signs of CWD by Alabama Department of Ag and Industries. HB 509 does not restrict the killing of deer for additional testing due to a positive test outside the facility in the wild. HB 509 does establish that the licensed breeder is the owner of the animals in possession, that these animals that they have bought, cared for, and bred are their personal property and not owned by the state of Alabama. These are not pets. These are not hunted in small enclosed areas. This bill has nothing to do with hunting. It is more about government overreach of a
Guys,
valuable
hold on a
resource.
minute. Wait, whoa, time out. It's awful loud in here today. I think this is the issue everybody needs to pay attention to. So my request is let's hold it down just a little bit. It's louder today than normal. And maybe, Jeff, maybe speak a little closer in the mic might help. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Speaker.
y'all.
HB 509 does establish that the licensed breeder is the owner of the animals in its possession, that these animals that they have bought, cared for, and breed are their personal property and not the state of Alabama. This bill, these are not pets and are not hunted in small enclosed areas. This bill has nothing to do with hunting. It is more about government overreach of a valuable resource for the state of Alabama. These people are business owners who pay taxes, follow the rules, and deserve to have their rights protected. So, Mr. Speaker, with that, I would call for the BIR, and at the proper time, I do have an amendment.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Coffee, Reverend Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A lot of the things that I'm hearing about this bill is about the testing inside these facilities. Can you go into a little bit more explanation of how the testing currently is and how it would change underneath this law?
Well, the law won't actually change the testing. Right now, if an animal dies and it's over 12 months of age, they actually will take that animal and have it tested by the Department of Ag and Industries.
So it's already in the bill. I mean, it's already state law.
Absolutely. And as of now, they were testing more than anybody in the entire state.
Thank you so much. I'm very supportive of this bill. Thank you for bringing it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Gavan.
Representative Sorrells, how are you doing?
Doing great. How about you, Representative?
I like that
Gavan?
bass in your voice. I'm glad the speaker got him to shut up so we can hear the bass in your voice. Do you sing?
Well, he kind of caught me off guard with that gavel one time.
Oh, I know, right? Okay. Well, listen. I'm used to the gavel. Trust me. I'm used to the gavel. It has no effect on me anymore other than just to shut on up and go sit down because I know it's coming again. Listen. Thank you. Our little pages look so cute this year. Let's give our pages a round of applause, Mr. Speaker. They look so nice. Look, the speakers, these future leaders. Listen, help me. I'm just trying to get some clarity. I know there's some opposition from several associations regarding this bill, and I don't even know how anybody can oppose anything that you bring. But would you, yeah, would you just help enlighten me? Because I'm just trying to seriously get the clarity. I know this has to do with the testing. Am I correct on the testing portion? But it seems like there's an issue over the breeding. So can you just give me clarity on the bill? What exactly what it does?
Basically, the bill does three things. It declares ownership,
Mhm.
that these breeders own these animals, that
Okay.
it's not the property of the state.
Okay.
It also says that you cannot go in and kill these animals inside of a breeding facility just because you have detected chronic wasting disease on the outside of the
But
facility.
even if you're the owner of the animal, because you just said this bill gives the owner ownership of the animal and not the facility. So that's sort of confusing.
Well,
Who does it? Okay, let me listen. I don't want you to get tripped up. I don't have
no, not
I
at
don't
all.
have a problem with your bill. But
I
once you
understand.
say that, okay, so let me let you talk. Okay, so
I don't really understand your question. This bill is trying to
so you don't
clarify.
understand when I asked what the bill does and to get clarification and you offered 3 points and then I questioned one of the points because what you said is that the bill gives ownership. Then once I guess the animal goes into the facility for the testing and you referenced something there. So then I went back to, but I thought it gave ownership to whoever the person was that caught, killed, breeded, whatever, the deer. Is that not what you said at first?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
This bill will do that. Presently,
Okay.
conservation says that they own these animals that are inside
Oh,
these
okay,
breeding
that's the part I'm missing. I'm slow,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
I'm sure. But trust me, whenever y'all talking, y'all may not understand me, but I certainly can understand y'all.
I believe that.
To get to a level of understanding, period.
Yes.
So, okay, so I'm caught up. Okay, so now you're saying that you don't want conservation to have the right to say that they are now the owners.
Right. This is saying that the breeder
The breeder,
that has bought and paid for and cares for this animal is the owner of this.
regardless of what happens to the animal, regardless if the animal is sick, you mentioned some kind of disease or something.
Yes.
So you're basically taking the authority out of the hands of the conservationists to say that they are the actual owners. And you referenced one situation, I'm assuming this is a location in which you represent, that some person there was a case or situation that happened. Would you explain that to me?
Yes, it was in Northwest Alabama. I'm actually in Southeast Alabama.
Okay.
But there was a situation in Northwest Alabama where conservation was testing a lot of heads up there from deer that were killed in the wild.
Okay.
Okay, that's different from the breeding facility.
Okay.
So these deers were killed in the wild, and they tested those and found CWD in one of those animals.
And what is CWD?
Chronic wasting disease.
Okay,
It's a
chronic
disease that is prevalent, not prevalent. It's a disease that can affect cervids, which are deer and elk.
Okay, I gotta
Okay,
make
so
sure next
they-
time somebody bring me some deer sausages that ain't gonna show from a deer that done been tested.
Well, I can take care of that for you now.
What you gonna do? You gonna make sure it's
The deer
tested, or you
sausage,
gonna bring
no.
me the deer sausages? Okay,
deer
well,
sausage.
Well, you make sure you let me know if it's been tagged and tested, whatever you do. But okay, so with that being, I'm just trying to get. Listen, over the years we've had listen, timber, animals, anything dealing with, well, it used to be alcohol, but it's a free for all for alcohol in this building now. Folks used to get to fighting, punch each other in the face over alcohol bill. And it was very bad at one time, but now everybody has one. So I'm just trying to get the clarity on this bill. So is it the conservationists that are in opposition of the bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so once they're tested, and what if the disease is found? Then who owns the right or has the right, first right of refusal of ownership of the deer? does that revert back to the owner, whoever it was at first, or the conservationist, since we now know that there's a diseased animal?
Well, if the disease is located in an animal, then, and if it's in the wild, then it's just part of it. If it's in a facility, then the owner of that animal would bear the burden.
They bear the burden.
Yes.
Okay. So why would there be opposition to this bill then?
Well, you tell me.
Well, I can't. I know I'm a super smart person, but listen.
Well,
I can promise you, I can't tell you that one. If I could, I would.
Let me finish what I was telling you about
Okay,
a minute
yeah.
ago with the
'Cause this is
case
an
that was
interesting
located
job.
up in northwest corner
Yes,
of the
sir.
state. That they detected that animal had CWD, so they came in and drew a 25-mile radius around where that animal was detected that had CWD. And by rule of conservation, they say that they have the authority to go inside of a game breeding facility. And kill 10% of that animal for testing purposes, even though over the last 20 plus years, there's never been a positive test inside of a breeding facility.
So hold right there, because this is what I'm trying to get. I want to get to. So if there's not been one proof positive test, which some kind of way an animal has to have had this disease. There's no way around. Now, what their baseline or how they get there, I don't know. I'm not in the facilities. But with that being the case, you're basically trying to stop basically them from going in and killing these folks' deers.
Yes, ma'am.
That's in a nutshell.
That's one of the things. The other is the ownership.
And
aspect.
ownership. Okay, I got it. But I would just not think that why would they want to hold on and take the ownership of the deer?
I think that would probably be a question for them, Representative Gavan.
I mean, that doesn't add up. This must be some big money in this industry. Pretty big money.
It's a multi-million-dollar industry.
Just a
yes,
multi.
ma'am.
Okay, that
Yes,
make a
ma'am.
big difference. Okay. So all right, I'm slow, but I'm sure. I got it. Okay, I'm not trying to embarrass you or anything. As a matter of fact, I'm glad I came up here because it gave you an opportunity to warm up and loosen up. You know, I like being able to talk to you all sometime and get you to give me some substantive information, because you'll be surprised at how many people on some bills will stop you. I remember one year I was somewhere at a meeting, and one of my constituents, this was many years ago, and it was a bill I hadn't paid any attention to. But just because I didn't pay attention doesn't mean someone else isn't. And from that day forward, I tried to be as astute as possible and as studious, as a matter of fact, when it comes to a lot of bills, because you will be surprised. And I do know gaming, anything relative, to animals. Like I said, we had that cockfighting bill. I almost tore the House chamber up over that cockfighting. And one representative had a bestiality bill. You know, anytime you're dealing with animals and stuff, you got a problem on your hand. You know, and that's why when I wear my mink coats, I wear it with caution, because I don't want Peter to come and throw anything on not one of my coats, because they're going to be real problematic in the state. But I believe they know who to throw powder and water on and all of that. So, you know, but I pray to God it don't ever happen to the one, not anything that I bought that is animal related. But with that being said, I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks,
ma'am.
Good
Thank
luck
you.
on your bill.
Sure, thanks, lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Covington, Representative Hammett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's been a lot of misinformation put out about this bill, hasn't there?
Yes, sir, I believe so.
It's not about hunting, as you said, and I think everybody agrees. Me and you are pro-business. This is protecting people that are in business, and this is their livelihood, and this is how they make a living. And I thank you for bringing this bill, trying to protect,
Absolutely.
their way of life. Thank you, Representative.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sure, thanks, the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Marengo, Representative McCampbell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Absolutely.
You know, we had this in committee the other day, And some of the questions I asked regarding that was about live testing. And I've talked with the Department of, you know, what department is that?
Conservation.
Conservation.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I talked with them, and they said there are no real no tests that they feel are accurate enough. And I guess I have some problem with not trying to find some tests, you know, because it is a big business here in the state of Alabama. And I think most people think about it from the high fence hunting concept versus the breeding concept. Can you explain the difference in the two so that people that don't know it will understand it?
Sure. The actual breeding facilities are where the animals are contained in like 1, 2, 3 acre areas that they actually artificially inseminate and raise and breed these animals. The high fence hunting areas are where once these animals mature, they are released into the wild, you know, anywhere from 3 to 5 to 1,000, 1,500 acres that are high fence to contain those animals for hunting purposes.
So
that's the difference in the two.
So the breeders then have a little bit more control and ability to affect what's going on within the confines of their property. Would you say it that way?
I would agree.
Yeah. And if I know anything about it, the deer are tested on a regular basis anyway. They are inoculated. It's almost like raising cows.
Yes.
You're going to make sure and the thing that I heard that was very interesting to me is now they are in the process of trying to breed out this disease, actually through the process of selective breeding. And it's the same thing that they did with something in sheep. What was that they did in
It was
sheep?
scrapies.
Scrapies.
That's
yeah.
basically what they did was genetically bred that out of scrapies, out of diseased sheep.
And so that's basically what the breeders, their setup is designed to do. Am I correct?
Right.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to come down, and we're saying that there's a lot of misinformation. I asked the Department of Conservation to at least look into, you know, some of the opportunities to have some live testing rather than killing off a animal, because some of these animals are worth quite a bit of money.
Right.
That people have you know, spent to acquire them. So I appreciate you bringing the bill, and we'll see where we can go from here.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Chair, thanks, gentlemen. Question for the body now is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. – 94 ayes, 2 nays. The BIR has been adopted. Representative.
Mr. Speaker, I do have an amendment to the bill.
Clerk, see the amendment.
Amendment to House Bill 509 by Representative Sorrells.
Representative Sorrells, you care to explain your amendment, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment has to do with the movement of these animals that are in a chronic wasting disease management zone. That's that 25-mile radius where there is restrictions that go and are done there. Now, what this does is that it allows for movement out of that zone if you've had a live negative test on that disease. Now, USDA has a test. Whether or not it's recognized by the Department of Conservation is in question, but there is that test available, and it would be a test approved by the state's veterinarian. So we're asking the state's veterinarian to get involved in this to approve the test before those deer are allowed to move out of that zone. It also would basically allow you, when these deer breeders are doing these deer genomically, where the genetics that they're breeding in so that they're resistant to CWD, if they reach a certain threshold, it's pretty much evident that they'll be resistant to the disease. So once you reach that, and they can test these animals and get to that point, once you reach that point, then those deer could be moved out of a management area. And this is all within a CWD management area is where this takes effect. The third thing that would do was if these animals were behind a double fence. There's been some concerns about wildlife transferring this disease through the fence. I guess from however kissing or whatever, I don't know. But that would combat that because there would be a double fence around the facility. So that's actually what the amendment does, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, you've heard the explanation of the floor amendment. I've got a few lights on. Y'all will speak on the amendment or on the bill? On the amendment, Ms. Moore? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative, I think your amendment probably clear up my concerns because I was thinking about that too. If you are licensed and have your breeding deer, and I heard you say in there that they're coming up with something that those deers that they breed, some way I guess you would treat them to prevent them from contacting that wasting disease. And then the other precaution is going to be that it's going to be a double fence, and I would suspect that double fence will have a distance where they just can't get to those deers that's inside of the facilities. So that's
Yes,
what
ma'am.
it'll do.
There's two fences. There's one on the outside perimeter.
Right.
And then there's an inside perimeter developed with a gap in between to keep any kind of contact between outside animals
Right.
and inside animals.
So that also, because the way that the inside animals would get it would if they came in contact with a deer that has that wasting disease. But this is to prevent it. And then the goal is, and the breeding is to breed a strand of deers that are resistant to the wasting disease.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the lady. Chair recognizes Ms. Hall speaking on the amendment or the bill. Okay, you'll go ahead and work it out with him and go forward. I'll come back to you if you need me to. Representative Travis on the bill. Ms. Hall, I think you're the only one on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
So I think I heard initially the concern is this is a conflict between the Department of Conservation and what group?
The Alabama Deer Breeders.
Okay. And so when I looked at the amendment, tell me exactly what happened between the breeders and conservation.
What happened between the breeders and conservation was when CWD was discovered in the northwest part of the state, they drew a 25-mile radius around that. And
Who is they? The conservation?
Department of Conservation, yes,
okay.
ma'am.
All right. And what would that do? What did
Well,
they do?
that established the chronic wasting management zone.
Okay. All
And
right.
when that happened, they, according to their rule, had the authority to come inside this breeding facility and killed 10% of their animals for testing purposes, just to see if they had CWD.
10%.
10%, yes,
The
ma'am.
rules that they presently function under.
Yes,
At
ma'am.
the authority. And then when I was looking at your sub, I think. The ultimate goal of your bill is, you're saying, to protect the deer owners, right? Is that the ultimate goal?
The ultimate goal was to keep them from coming inside the facility to take out 10% of their animals when there's been no CWD detected inside of that facility. That was the ultimate goal.
That's the bottom line. That should not happen. That
Right.
should not be. And this bill is going to will prevent the Department of Conservation from doing that.
Yes, ma'am.
When you had conversations with them, what did you find out from them? What was that? Was there any dialogue or conversations?
Yes, we
relative-
had, I had a whole weekend long full of dialogue with
This
them. I
past
promise.
weekend.
Yes, ma'am.
But that was after you had brought the bill, though.
Right.
Okay.
Right, which I've been involved with this now for probably the last 5 years.
I know we keep getting this issue.
Yeah,
and-
my original interest in this was when we tried to move this over to ag and industry.
Oh.
That was 6 years ago. And then last year we did pass a bill because of the genetics and the way these deer, the rut seasons. We passed a bill last year backing up the hunting season for some of these high fence people because their animals were actually coming into rut early, and instead of they go out of rut at Thanksgiving. So most deer come in at Thanksgiving and go out in February. So we actually did pass, and conservation was very open to that, a bill. Now there is a fee they had to pay to do that, but this is strictly in.
Now, when you say they have to pay, that's the deer owners.
Yes,
Have to
ma'am.
pay. Certainly, it would seem that they would be amenable to that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. I mean, I don't know.
I don't
That-
either.
Oh, okay. So we were making an assumption that they may or may not be amenable to having to pay that fee. Do you have any idea what that is?
You'll have to ask that question again right quick.
I said, oh, not to you is what you're saying. I was saying, do you have any idea what the amount is, the fee?
The amount is, I believe it was $2,500 per facility.
Okay.
Now, I'm not sure over that. That's just my recollection.
The one thing that I was not aware of, I just thought all of the deers were wild. I had no ideas we had breeders, and those deers that are breeded are also available for individuals to come and hunt. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, there are breeders that breed them,
For hunting.
yep, behind closed facilities. Yes, ma'am. And
Do you have any idea how many breeders there are in the state of Alabama?
I do not. I can get you that information, but I do not.
And so the main opposition to what you're doing now occurs from basically the department. Is that your feeling, or?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so, but I want to say, in terms of the conservation, I was not aware that we had breeders privately. So I learned something new today. 2, I was not aware that we had a law that allowed the Department of Conservation to come in and take ownership of your property in that way. And then thirdly, it seems that you've indicated that this has not happened one time, it's been several times.
No, ma'am. The actual killing of animals has only happened once.
Okay, okay.
I believe the CWD's only been detected in the wild in the last couple of years.
Okay, thank you.
I was proud.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Van, speaking on the amendment.
Thinking about that song, where them fans at? I was looking up there, that gentleman got a mean cowboy hat on up there in that gallery. Lord have mercy, I wish I had it in my repertoire. I don't know who he is, but it's a bad cowboy hat. It's one of them over $100 $200 cowboy hats he has on. Leave it at the desk with Ernestine. I don't know him. And I don't want it to be treated as a thing of value either, but it's a bad hat. But
I'll
anyway.
have to check that out when I.
Oh, that's a bad. Oh, yeah. He's sitting around that column right there. Them guys up there looking at him. He a nice looking little fella, little cowboy up there. Yeah, bad hat. I like that. Oh, yeah. You know, everything now is getting back into the Western, mode of things. But listen, you mentioned the veterinarians. Tell me what, I just wanted to know about that. I have a couple close friends that are veterinarians, so I'm just trying to see what you were saying.
About the live test that would be administered.
So
that it
would
would
they
be,
do the live test, or you're taking that out of their hands?
Yes, that would be done through the state veterinarian.
Through the state veterinarian.
Yes, ma'am.
So is the state veterinarian in concert with that?
Well, if we pass the law, he will be. Yes, ma'am.
So I take that as you haven't spoken with them. Yeah, I got you. Y'all can get away with that kind of stuff.
Well-
Ain't nothing wrong with it. Ain't nothing wrong with it. If you can do it, do it. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. I ain't mad at you.
They've been involved in the past in this industry very heavily.
But you just
so.
haven't spoken specifically about this. I got you. I just
Right.
wanted to know. Well, I heard the word veterinarian, and I was just curious. Okay. One of Alabama A&M one of their board of trustees is a veterinarian in Birmingham. They're very nice gentlemen in Birmingham that we know. So I just anytime I have someone that I'm associated with in these areas. Okay, well, I don't know if the little cowboy up there is with you or supporting. I know he's been up there taking pictures and being attentive. But that if he is, you tell him to let you know where he got that cowboy hat from.
Chair thanks the lady. The question for the body now is adoption of the floor amendment. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. It's 98 ayes, 1 nay. Floor amendment has been adopted. Mr. Rails.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to move for final passage of HB 509 as amended.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Franklin, Representative Keel.
Representative Sorrells, I don't want to belabor the point. I think you've made a very good point, but I do want to say that this issue originated in Franklin County, and not only in Franklin County, but the farm that it happened on, Jimmy Smith is in my view probably the one of the originators of deer breeding to begin with, and the farm that they killed the deer on, his daughter now owns, and she is just keeping his legacy alive by owning this farm. But I want to make a point that these are not pets. No more than a cow on a farm that we're going to go eat a steak tonight or a hamburger tonight. That's not a pet. A chicken in a chicken house, not a pet. I don't have a problem eating that. And these are not pets inside of a little pen that somebody's killing. And so I wanted to make those points and just make sure that the public understands. We're not talking about killing pets here. We're talking about killing someone's livelihood. And it's very personal when it's your livelihood that's being affected. There's 16 deer breeder farms in Franklin County. We're not a large county. And so it's very impactful to a county like ours to be able to breed, grow, and sell these deer, just like other farmers breed, grow, and sell chickens, cows, horses, or whatever else they're selling. And so I appreciate you bringing the bill today, and I'm sure we're going to pass it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Keel.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Washington, Representative Easterbrook.
Gentleman, you.
Yes, sir.
This bill is about ownership, and I was a deer breeder for years. I haven't had a license now for about 5 years. I got a bill of sale with every deer I bought. I own that deer. I don't care what anybody says. I bought them. I paid for them. They're mine.
I didn't take them out of the wild. I didn't take them from the state. They belong to me. I still have a high fence area, and this all goes back to CWD. CWD is the same thing as scrapers and sheep. It was found in Europe in 1759. 1759. 266 years ago. They did the same thing. The sky was falling, but the numbers didn't go up, and they eventually bred it out. It was discovered, CWD, about 75 years ago in Colorado. They did the same thing. They started killing deer, testing deer. They required every deer that was killed by a hunter to be tested, 100% of them, for years. Between 0.5 and 1% tested positive for years and years and years. This disease was probably here when Noah got off the ship. He just didn't have a way to test for it and didn't know to test for it. It didn't start in the West and move this way. The testing started in the West. Wyoming and Colorado was the first to discover it. They no longer do testing. I was in Nebraska when it was discovered in 2000. Conservation scared the public to death, said it was going to be the end of the whitetail. They require testing of 100% of the deer to be killed, and they test between 0.5 and 1% every year for 25 years. The population has not declined. It's as strong as ever. If you go anywhere in this state and you kill 1,000 deer, between 0.5 and 1% of them will test positive. It has everywhere else where they require the testing of all deer killed. I think there's about 30 states that require testing of all deer. All states have a monitoring program. Monitoring is one thing. Testing to me is you test every deer that's killed by hunters. That's about 30 of them. Many of them have quit testing. It's not just moving into Alabama and moving west. It was discovered in Georgia years ago. It was discovered in Florida 15 years ago. It's in Tennessee. It's in Kentucky. It's everywhere that they test. This is nothing new. It was the fact that it was found 75 years ago was simply because a deer came down with it on a government research facility, and they noticed something wrong with it, started testing. I think I've seen a deer years ago that probably had it. He was very emaciated, didn't know where he was at. We shot him and killed him and left him laying there, just come walking up to you. But everywhere they've tested, between 0.5 and 1% test positive. They have from 75 plus years now. We went, when they found it in Franklin County, they drew a circle and they killed 1,100 deer. 8 of them tested positive. About 0.7% tested positive. If they come to Washington County tomorrow and kill 1,000, guess what? Between 0.5 and 1% will test positive. They go to any county in the state, it will test positive. It's the same thing also as mad cow disease. You don't hear anything about mad cow disease not being able to move cows or sheep. CWD's never been proven to transmit from an animal to a human. Neither has scabies. But mad cow disease has. There's been 8 cases in Europe of mad cow disease that was transferred from a cow to a human. But yet we don't require testing to move every deer off of a cattle ranch. And when it comes to ownership, let me ask you this. The state conservation is over fisheries. If you have a fish pond, do they own the fish in your pond? What about turkeys? There's wild turkeys, but a turkey on a farm, who does he belong to? The man who bought him and paid for him, or does he belong to the state? If he's in my barnyard and I bought him and paid for him, I'll kill him in July if I take a notion to. He belongs to me. It's why they are after the deer farmers, I don't know. 100% of every deer that dies in the state of Alabama is taken to Auburn and tested for CWD. 0 have tested positive in a state facility. There's 2 known markers, DNA markers in deer that have never tested positive. Deer breeders have been breeding with those markers for years now to create a herd that is CWD resistant. So if anything, if it truly was going to wipe out the deer breeders would be the only one that have a plan for it, as far as I'm concerned. But it's not going to wipe them out. We don't know how long it's been here. It tested positive in the moose in Finland. It's tested positive in the red deer. It's tested positive in the reindeer. It's tested positive in Argentina, Australia, Finland, all over the world. They have found it. It's not just whitetail and elk. It's in a lot of your Cervidae community. And the populations in each of those herds are as strong today as they ever were. So to me, I call this a political disease. It makes no sense that we're spending money advertising stuff against CWD as if it's moving in from the West. It's not moving in. Testing started in the West and it started testing coming this way. When they started testing in Georgia, it skipped all the way over Alabama and went to Georgia? I don't think so. Did it swim across the ocean and get to the Gulf of Mexico and get to Florida? I don't think so. You go to any county here and you test enough of them, you will find it. It doesn't mean that it just occurred because you found it. It means you started testing for it. And that's the only reason you found it. So, but back to the ownership, there's no doubt in my mind who owns the deer. I wrote the checks for them. I have a bill of sale, and they're damn well mine. If you want to apply this, apply it to cattle, apply it to sheep, apply it to turkeys. No, they just want to apply it just to deer. There's no excuse for it. So with that, I'll yield my time.
Thank you, Representative.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Hale, Representative Travis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
I rise because I represent Hale and Greene cattle, which are large, recognized for large hunting populations of deer hunting, and it is very important to our economy. It drives a lot and everything. And a lot of the people, and I know you said misinformation about some folks, but we have a lot of people in my area who are very much concerned about this particular bill. For instance, I have a letter from the Westernville Land Company, which is a large timber holder that operates in all those counties. They large timber holders, but they're also very active in hunting leases and providing hunting rights, opportunities for people to hunt. And they would, to address dealing with the chronic wasting disease, on their property, if you lease from them, you cannot put out bait, for them for that because they believe, trying to control, make sure the chronic waste disease is not spread, on animals that they come up one head, they're all eating from that, then, getting catching the spread. So they've been very much proactive. Matter of fact, they said to me in the letter that they wrote to me, they said, while we respect private property rights, we feel that this bill is a counter to long-standing precedents of managing game resources for the greater good. As one of the largest forest landowners in Alabama, the Westernville Company has a long history of supporting science-based wildlife management and conservation in the state. We have actively participated in support research on numerous game and non-game species and have been a leader in habitat management on private working forests. Our top corporate values as steward of the land means that we consider sustainability of all the resources that are important to our company and society as a whole. This includes water, timber, air, and wildlife resource, as well as humans and economic values. We fully support the North American model of wildlife conservation and believe it should be protected. A critical element of responsible big game species management is utilizing science and research to inform decisions for overall herd health, and maintaining quality hunting opportunities. We feel that HB 509 is a departure from this strategy. This legislation will remove the subject matter expert as well as the majority opinion of hunters in the state from the equation. The Alabama Department of Conservation and Natural Resources must be allowed to uphold their responsibilities to the citizens of the state. Deer hunting is not only a special tradition in Alabama, but also an important economic driver for landowners and rural economies. The threat of this disease, such as chronic wasting disease, brucellosis, pose a very real risk to these rural communities, our deer hunting heritage, as well as the resource itself. They must maintain authority over the deer herds and have the ability to monitor, test, and manage all herds in the state. What they're saying, I was raised farmers. We have chicken houses. When the swine flu, I have had whole chicken houses killed where they had to go in and quarantine, kill all the birds and everything, and burn them. I've seen situations in the past where they're not so prevalent because they don't raise swine as much, but there were situations where swine flu and there was issues that developed. They had to go in and kill all the herds and so on. We have to, as we say, even though we raise animals like cows, we get brucellosis and stuff like that, we're always trying to make sure, not just a part of dealing with raising animals and their diseases that happen. While everybody here says the same, a few years ago, 2 years ago, I was at around a high forest, high fence managed area. Tornado struck, fence torn down. Those animals escaped out, of that and everything. Those are the type of things that we can't control. So while I understand the owner's right, we have to have, to me, and for our people, I cannot believe the experts and all of these people like at Western Village and the other who get game biologists and folks that do all this type of stuff, that they are totally got it wrong on this particular issue and everything. CWD has been monitored because it started in Mississippi, and we was monitoring and making sure that folks wouldn't transport animals out of Mississippi into Alabama trying to keep it from spread. But it was noticed up there that the issue was trying to identify that. And I know one, individual, but we need to make sure that we don't try, even though they're saying when these people apply to get licensed, they, it's kind of like it's a wild animal, and I know they said, but they said that they're managing it in trust. They're dealing with that. We have a lot of that that's happening. I know the difference between high fences and deer breeders, but it's one of those things that I think, given the opportunity that people say, that people need to look at. But there are strong oppositions from people that I really trust and rely on. Because like I said, deer hunting is a really big deal in my area, and I was so pleased over the years of things that have been done, the biologists to extend the deer seasons, and stuff like that, because we have people coming in to hunt, they're coming in, the mom and pop shops, restaurants and stuff like that make money. The deer season, the processors make money. Hotel, lodging make money. It's, really gas people make money. Different stuff that make money that when the regular time of the year. And so when people like Gulf State feel that this disease, and actually Gulf State is Westernville now, feel like this disease is such a problem that they have taken proactive issues that I don't care how big a hunt lease, how long a hunt lease you have, you cannot put any bait if you want to maintain your hunt lease with them. If you get caught with bait on your hunt lease, you lose your hunt lease. That's how proactive they are about this particular issue. So while I realize it may be some saying that it's not a big deal, and I understand the people saying, with their deals, we're in this environment where we can, because first of all, knowing how the disease spread is an issue, but also how you control it. But when that happens, we don't know. We have a lot of tornadoes in Alabama, and I've seen several high fence. I remember, I think that the big tornado that came across Selma, Talk County, there was a big buck running around out there in the paper, and people was trying, and everybody knew it came from a high fence, but that big buck was no longer in the place and everything. I don't know if whatever happened to it. Maybe some hunter didn't find him that didn't, bid it, but it's still, they had an opportunity to interact with other animals and everything. So it is one of those things and everything. So to say, and I thank you for this amendment and trying to put on the double wide. But I think we need to be, it's much more than just not saying no. We need to have the oversight, the Department of Conservation and Natural, as well as farmers. That we had a Department of Agriculture that oversights, to look at the chicken farms and stuff like that. And when they come in, I guess it's your insurance that have to do with when they come in with disease, say you got to kill and dig a hole and bury everything. That's it, and I've never heard anybody reimburse, but it's one of those things that I know. And then even with the brucellosis and stuff like that, dealing with cows, it's different disease. So, I just want to make sure that we understand it's not just as simple as the animal belongs to them. The animal, if they are responsible for the animals and stuff like that, what happens if that animal gets out, if it belongs to them and that animal, somebody hits that animal in the street with that car? Are they going to be responsible for the liability of what happens to that animal if that car if they strike and everything? Those are the questions that happen. But like I said, but when
I'll be happy to answer them if you give me just a second. Okay. You make a couple of very valid points. The first one is the science.
Yes.
And the science, in my opinion, is behind these breeders because they're the ones that have gone out and researched and found these genetic markers that they can breed these animals with so that they are resistant to CWD. So there is a valid point for the science. And if one of those animals gets out of that enclosure into the wild, then we've just put a deer into the wild that is resistant to CWD, who will be breeding out there at the point in the wild area. So that's the science of it to me. The other thing is this does not stop testing inside the facilities. The testing will still go on. So all the testing that's happening right now will still be done, but it won't be done when just you find it outside and you come in and kill on the inside. And the other thing is, in 23 years of testing of these animals inside these facilities, there have been zero positive tests.
And the gentleman's time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank the gentleman. The chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Two things. If a person eats a deer that has this wasting disease, what impact would it have on that person?
From everything I've read, ma'am, none. It does not impact the meat. It's a neurological disease.
Okay, so it doesn't impact them if they should eat it.
Yes.
Okay, the other thing is when they breed these deers, do they breed them so that people can hunt them? Or do they just breed them to sell?
They're bred basically to hunt.
So how do they do that? Do they have some defined property that they will release the deer on, and then the hunters come out within, say if they had a 2-mile piece of land or something that's protected, where the deer will stay within that confine, and then the hunters come out and they can hunt then. So how do they bring them back into the facility after the hunt is over?
They don't. Once they're released out into these hunting enclosures,
Okay.
they're basically wild again.
Okay,
So they
but-
have to fend for themselves out
Okay.
there in these enclosures. Now, most of these that I've seen are anywhere from 300 to 500 to even 1,000 acres
Okay.
that are fenced in. So these animals are out there. They don't just come out there and feed them corn and
Right.
all that. They have to fend for themselves.
But like with that amendment you had, because they are practicing breeding deer that is resistant to the wasting disease in the first place. So then that group that they might release out, even if they come in contact with a deer that's had it, because genetically they're resistant, it won't have an impact on them.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Chair thanks the lady. Question for the body now is final passage of HB 509 as amended. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 84 ayes, 8 nays. HB 509 has passed as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you,
members.
gentlemen. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 38 of the calendar, House Bill 505 by Representative Sells relating to the Alabama Tax Tribunal.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. HB 505 takes the current period of 30 days to appeal a final assessment on your taxes, fees and stuff by Department of Revenue, and extends it to 60 days. And then when you get to the tribunal judge, what it does is their pay was set up in the code when they set up the tribunal court, and it has not kept up with the times. And what it does is increases their pay for it's competitive with other administrative law judges. Any questions? Not any questions, ask for the BIR.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Shelby, Representative Mooney.
Thank you, sir. Representative Sells, I appreciate you bringing this bill. A number of us over the years have tried to work on various things that related to where the tax tribunal has supported citizens in our state in disputes that related to fees and things that were presented and put on stuff, not the least of which was the transient occupancy tax that was charged on meetings that were occurring, not lodgings.
Right.
And you know, it's been a difficult thing, and your extension of time for citizens to be able to deal with this in a little bit longer manner, most folks just can't keep up with it. I think it's kind of like today's tax day. Well, it's tax day in Alabama, but it's not tax day with the feds until later in 1st of May. I mean, giving the opportunity for people to have a chance to respond certainly helps many of our citizens who don't have the ability to pursue things in quite the way some can with attorneys and other things. And the tax tribunal is all they've got. Thank you again.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Chairman Sells.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This time I ask for final passage.
That's questions. Final passage of 505. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 100 ayes, 0 nays. HB 505 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, body.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call up the next bill.
On page 38 of the calendar, House Bill 255 with substitute by Representative Pettis relating to the Employees Retirement System of Alabama.
Chairman Pettis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under existing law, certain law enforcement officers may receive payment for up to 80 hours per year of accrued or unused annual leave in excess of 80 hours. Under the current system, troopers that were hired before Leah was formed get this, and the ones who were hired after that do not get it. What this does is put everybody on a level playing field. With that, I ask for the BIR.
Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 95 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Mr. Chairman.
We have a committee sub.
Here to explain the sub, please.
Yeah, the original bill had Tier 2, and what we did, we took out the Tier 2 and put any law enforcement officer in the Alabama State Law Enforcement Agency, which is ALEA.
Okay, you heard the explanation of the substitute. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 97 ayes, 0 nays. Substitute has been adopted.
Ask for final passage as substituted.
That is questions. Final passage as substituted. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote, 97 ayes, 0 nays, 6 abstentions. HB 255 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 27 of the calendar, House Bill 344 by Representative Collins relating to provisional release from educational intervention.
Representative Almond.
Yes, sir. We're going to ask that this bill be carried over.
All those in favor say aye. Has been carried over.
Thank you very much.
Thank the lady. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 23 of the calendar, House Bill 391 by Representative Rigsby relating to traffic offenses.
Representative Rigsby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Members, this is HB 391. This was brought to me by the Ambulance Association. This is a technical cleanup bill. There was a legislation passed in 21 that allowed for healthcare providers such as paramedics, nurses, physicians, and phlebotomists to draw blood of people suspected of driving under the influence for the purpose of determining alcohol content or the presence of impairing substances. The law originally read that they may draw this blood, but that has been misinterpreted several times, and some law enforcements have required or attempted to require these people, these healthcare providers, to draw this blood. So what we're attempting to do here is to clean up that language so that the healthcare providers can refuse to draw that blood if they choose to, and I will have an amendment to clarify it even further. So, Mr. Speaker, I ask for the BIR.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson, Representative Treadway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Very concerned as I read this bill. You say it's just a technical bill. Let me run a scenario by you. Currently, we can make this request, as you know. And if refused, the individual can be arrested, correct?
Correct.
All right. So you got a loved one, you got your family out here on the
Well, hold
highway.
on. Let me make sure when I say
Let me
correct. When you're asking about who can be arrested,
The individual refusing to
they
draw the
shouldn't
blood.
be arrested, but it's been interpreted they can be.
Always been that way in my 35 years affiliated with law enforcement. Let me run a scenario by you. You got a family out here on the interstate, 4 of them in the car. 2 go to the children's hospital, 2 go to other hospitals. The individual's incapacitated. You want them to get a court order to ask that physician or somebody to draw that blood when time is of the essence. And you may lose these individuals. You may have another scenario where an individual has been, an officer is aware of an individual who may be out on bond on a DUI for a manslaughter, and he's caught again. And you want him to go get a court order to order that hospital, that physician, that nurse. Never had a problem with this before. But if you don't catch these folks when you need to catch them, I promise you they will kill again. I promise you. Am I wrong with?
So I have an amendment that will be changing that definition that takes out the court order language.
And I can come back here on that, or I can ask about that now.
Sure.
My understanding, it still allows them to refuse. When you give them that option, they're going to refuse. In that same scenario with that same family, if you ever been hit by a DUI individual or had a family member killed by one, you'll know why this is important. Otherwise, they're going to go out again, they're going to offend again, and they're going to kill again. There's been no issue with this. So I don't understand where the ambulance industry, what has happened for them to be the only ones that want this bill.
Well, they're not. This was agreed upon by the District Attorneys Association, the Alabama Ambulance Association, the SERFs Association, ALEA, and the Department of Forensic Science.
What problem with the scenario with that family that I'm talking about?
Right.
Why is that a problem? You pass this bill, you're going to have a major issue here in a rural Alabama, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you got a family at 2 different hospitals possibly not going to make it.
So let me be clear. We're not changing the original language that says that a qualified individual may withdraw blood for the purpose of determining the alcohol content of the presence of the otherwise impairing substances. That language is the original language. We're not changing that. That's on line 59 of the bill, or at least on the one I have on my tablet. That language is already there. It says may withdraw
that.
blood.
I understand that.
So my amendment, all the amendment is going to do, because you're asking the question of why is this an issue? This has been an issue in another state where a healthcare provider refused, and that healthcare provider was arrested for obstruction. So my amendment that I'll bring in a minute.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that again?
Sure. So on a scene, or actually what had happened is a police officer brought a potential offender to a ambulance station or fire department and said, draw their blood. We think they're intoxicated. The paramedic or whoever was there refused. They arrested that healthcare professional for obstruction.
I have no idea of knowing what all the other facts to that scenario
Yeah, I don't either.
is.
Yeah.
But is that the reason we bring a bill? Because we have
So-
somebody that may have
Well, the
abused their
person,
authority.
the person was arrested. I mean, that did happen. So what the amendment, and I'm jumping ahead, but what the amendment will do is it just says simply this: a refusal to a blood draw by a qualified individual is not a violation of Section 13A.10.2, which is the offense of obstruction governmental operations. So all the new amendment will clarify is the fact that the original language says that a qualified individual may withdraw blood. Now, if they do refuse, they can't be arrested for obstruction. That's what the amendment will change that new language to.
Absolutely understand that.
Yeah.
Under current law, that same scenario, 3 o'clock in the morning,
Right.
in a rural place, and it's refused, and you've got a family, life hanging in the balance. I order it as a law enforcement officer, which is very rarely used, but when it is needed.
Right.
You do that, that individual refuses under current law, I can arrest that individual. They all know that. That's why there's never been an issue.
Right.
Your amendment will now say they can't be arrested.
Correct.
That's what you're doing here.
Well, but under
I mean-
this language, it says they may draw. So what are you quoting that says they
I'm ordering them
have
to draw under current law. They're going to draw. I got a family's life in the balance again.
Sure, and I'm not arguing
And
that.
I'm going to arrest them if they don't. I don't know of a scenario where they haven't drawn. And there can be many more scenarios. You change this law and they tell me no, then I can't do anything. And you embolden more to say no.
Right.
And you got lives in the balance. This is an attack on law enforcement, in my opinion.
Right.
Let them do their job. They do it right the most of the time. When there's a screw up, we don't need to change something that affects lives. And that's what this bill is going to do. That's what it's going to do.
Well, I mean, the original intent of this.
If I got knowledge of an individual who's out on bond, which many officers work these same areas, and he's out on bond because he's killed somebody, he's been charged with manslaughter, it's going to take several years to get this person to court. And I catch him again. 50%, I hope everybody listens to this. There's been a 50% drop in this state in DUI arrests. Do you know why? It's one of the most difficult things for a law enforcement officer. These lawyers are so good when they specialize in these DUI cases. Is the machine calibrated? If it's not, that has impact. But if I got knowledge of an individual who's already out on bond, I arrest him again, I want his blood drawn. I want to make sure when I get in court, and I may have just been beat by these attorneys 6 months ago. Now I'm going to get blood drawn because I got knowledge of what's happening. I need that blood or somebody's going to die. 12,000 people in this country die a year to a DUI situation. 12,000 in this country.
So again, I will say, law enforcement agreed to this piece of legislation. There have been issues.
I haven't heard from them. I don't know if they fully understand what I'm explaining to you.
Right.
That's a real situation. I'd like to have a chance to talk to them. I think they'll come out with a different opinion. I think we're setting a bad precedent here. There's way too many situations. It's not a problem now.
Well, hospitals,
But you're
I'm
gonna
getting
make it
some
a
information
problem.
that
This will-
hospitals have
listen,
had
folks,
issues.
This would make it a problem. I promise you, this will make it a problem.
Mr. Speaker, I move to carry this bill over at the call of chair, please.
All in favor of carrying over the call of the chair, say aye. Any opposed? It has been carried over the call of the chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 49 of the calendar, House Bill 480 by Representative Treadaway relating to driver's licenses.
Chairman Treadaway, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. See where I was at real quick here. What this bill will do, I'm carrying this bill for the Secretary of State. What this bill will do is simply state that a foreign national ID cannot be used to vote. With that, Mr. Speaker, I ask for the ayes.
Chair recognizes the lady from Madison, Resville Hall.
My first motion would be move to carry the bill over. that would be my first move.
Oh.
But in light of the fact, and so, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman yield. So when I read the synopsis and read the bill, it said a foreign national driver's license may not be used for the purpose of providing valid photo identification. When did we start that? I mean, help me to understand when we have started that process.
Wait, I'm sorry, which was that using foreign national license?
Yes.
All right, so foreign national license, you're not a U.S. citizen.
I understand that. I got that.
So we've been issuing those. In my understanding, there's been some confusion at the polling places where they've been, my understanding, what I've been told, they've been used. If they have or haven't been used, this bill simply says they cannot be used unless they get their U.S. citizenship. Then they can simply get a driver's license. So a lot of these are being issued. And
well, when you say a lot of what are being issued?
These foreign national type IDs / driver's license.
Being issued, hold up just a minute. Are you saying the state of Alabama presently issue state
Yes.
foreign driver's license?
Correct. Foreign national driver's license.
Foreign national driver's
And
license.
or IDs.
Okay.
And this
and or
bill's-
ID.
Yeah, and or an ID that are here temporary on a temporary visa or some other work type program. But the point is they're not U.S. citizens. All this bill says they cannot use that particular ID to vote. That's all the bill does.
I hear that. So I'm trying to understand, has that happened? This is the first, when I read this bill, I said, obviously, we've missed something. You know, a lot of things are going on in this country today, and, you know, a lot of confusion seem to be in existence in terms of people being not here or staying here. You know, some, you know, causes you to really think through or hopefully look at things that we are doing and how we are impacted, not just here in Alabama, but what the impact has that of things that are happening in DC, how it's impacting us here. And when I read this, I wondered if that was part of that problem, you know, what we see happening with individuals being sent away out of the country. Is that what this is about? Or is this, it says voting, but will that mean that that could be used in other ways as well? And it just gives me, I don't mind if we have never used it. I've never heard of us doing that. It's not that I wouldn't have or couldn't have missed it, so that's possible. So that was my question.
Yeah.
Does it make sense? Did I make sense?
It does. It does.
Okay.
But as I look at the list of the approved IDs that can be used, this is not one of them. And this bill simply says you cannot use it
to vote.
But if
That's
it's
it.
but if it's not one of them, why do we need a bill? That's the part I'm trying to understand. It's not. It's already not one of the things that you use to vote. That's not what we do.
It was relayed to me that these have created confusion at the polling place. I can only assume with that somebody's tried to use one. And this bill simply says you cannot. You are not a U.S. citizen when you're issued one of these foreign national ID/driver's license. And this will just clarify it, clean it up. You can't use it.
This is my first time hearing that, because when you look at the list of what's used, it's driver's license or identification, state ID, etc. Anyway.
And any of these individuals get their citizenship, they can simply get their driver's license and vote. And they can get one free. So it's not an issue other than it was relayed to me that this created some confusion. And it just clears that up. And you're not a U.S. citizen if you have one of these IDs, and you simply cannot use it to vote. That's all this bill does.
And I don't have any problem with that. Based on the information that we have today, I do realize that there are many challenges that people face in terms of voting. And over the years, we've been challenged, but this issue of a foreign ID or foreign driver's license is certainly one that just got my attention. And I can't imagine if it's not to be used, it's not being used now. It looks like we have another example of adding something on that doesn't necessarily have to be. But of course, now I don't look at things in the way that maybe somebody else looks at them. But that's the way it appears to me. If it's not listed, then, when people are doing voter registrations and things like that, they tend to want to make sure that they follow the guidelines from the groups that I've been involved with and worked with. And the international driver's license has never been one of those areas. So, it seems like it's one of those things that we're doing. Like the bill, previously we talked about things are okay the way they are. That's pretty much how I feel. It seems like things are okay the way we are in terms of voting.
I don't
But
think anybody's lives in the balance on this one.
sorry,
I don't think anybody's lives are in the balance with this one.
you don't think anybody's life.
Anybody's life is in the balance with this bill as related to the last bill. My opinion.
But lives have been in a balance in terms of, now we're talking about lives, I hear you. But when you start talking about lives that have been in balance, people that wanted to make sure people like me have voting rights, then there were lives every day in balance.
Fully
over the years.
understand.
Yes,
I got
at
it.
that time.
Yeah.
And that's the other reason I said when I look at that, I've not seen this as a part of the requirement. They had to do a lot of things. People before I started voting had to do a lot of things to be able to vote, like count jelly beans or bubbles in a bottle, those kinds of things. But
No, I understood that. When I carried the bill, I read it over and over, and it's pretty simple that anybody that has a foreign national driver's license/ID cannot use that to vote in our elections. And to me, that was very simple to the point with this bill, and that's why I agreed to carry it.
and I understand, and you did say Alabama can produce or provide a foreign national
Yes.
driver's license, the state of Alabama.
And or ID. And it may
or
be a new
ID.
thing. Maybe that's the reason this bill's here. But
Do you know when that started?
I do not. I do not.
And why that started, or how that started? Was it just because of voter registration?
I'm sure with Mercedes-Benz and other
Companies?
Yeah, obviously.
That would be logical.
Yeah.
That would be logical. But thank you.
Chair thanks the lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Representative Sherry.
Thank you, Laura, for not taking
Thank you for the recognition. Representative, should foreign nationals vote in our elections?
Absolutely not.
Okay. If I were to try to register this person to vote, and I'm going by the letter of the law, and I'm a foreign national, and I have a driver's license, by the letter of the law right now, I have a driver's license.
That's correct.
It says nothing about a foreign national driver's license. All this bill is simply doing is adding foreign national driver's license is not an ID. It's just clearing it up where it says driver's license.
Thank you. Yes, correct.
Absolutely. I think this is a great bill. Thank you for bringing it.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Moore. Before Ms. Moore gets down here, I'd like to recognize our State Finance Director and former House member Bill Poole on the floor. Chairman Poole.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For clarity's sake, if I'm a foreign nationalist and I'm issued an Alabama's driver's license, what does it have on it?
Well, you know, I was prepared for you, Representative Moore.
Okay.
And I got you some samples.
So will it look just like my driver's license? And that, okay.
FN driver license. That ain't called.
So when you go to vote, they have you to take your driver's license and they scan it through the machine. And if it's got this FN up here, it won't flag it as a foreign nationalist?
You know,
because
I
you
don't
have
know.
the whole driver's license is laid down.
Right. But I have also voted with a driver's license when that wasn't working and they just checked you off and took your license. But as you can see, the only distinguishing marks on there is that FN at the top.
Right.
So the answer to your question is, should the machine flag it? Should it come up? I don't know the answer.
Because I would think that with the regular driver's license, when they scan it through the machine, they usually look at it, and the FN, if it's somebody that, and you know what it says under Alabama? Not for federal identification.
Right.
So if the person that's working in the polling place, first I got FN driver's license, and under that I got not for federal identification, so they can't use it to vote anyway. Now, the other thing that would come to my mind is that, are they a registered voter? How did they register to vote in order to go vote in the first place?
This bill simply says you cannot use that to vote.
But the only reason I would go to vote, if I'm a foreign nationalist or a non-voter, haven't registered, is that I know that I done registered. So how did they register to vote in the first place? Because you got to, when you get your registration card and the information, they just lied on that information and became a registered voter, and that's why they went to vote. Because otherwise, I'm not going to vote if I'm a foreign nationalist, and I got to use this ID. And if they like the little ladies that work in my polling places, when they scan it, they almost take the magnifying glass out and look over it. They could tell you probably how many times your hair been dyed when they look at it. So I don't see them not seeing this when they scan it, because you actually put it into a scanner for them to see before they pass you on to vote.
If the scanner's working. I have been there, I'm sure you have, where they just take your license, look at it, check you off.
No, they don't.
They have.
If mine's not working, if ours not working, the little lady's gonna take that thing, and it's gonna be all the way up here, and they gonna scan it, look at every detail on that driver's license before they let you go by. So I just wonder, do we have evidence of people that have done that and tried with the foreign nationalist driver's license that have actually attempted to go vote in Alabama? And how many times has it happened?
We don't have to worry about it if we pass this law. You cannot.
We ain't
use
worrying
that
about it
ID.
now. You got to prove it happened.
Yeah.
You know, you're not supposed to drive down a certain side of the street, but do we pass a law to say this is what you got just in case somebody decides to drive down the wrong side of the street? Do we? But we haven't passed a law to say that. Because people know this is how we drive. Even though when you might be incapacitated, you might go down the wrong side of the street. But yet and still, we haven't passed a law. I think with some of the things we put on the table, we need the evidence like Representative Hall say, with all the things that's going on in this state, in this United States of America, I would be somewhat leery of this particular bill at this particular time, with so much happening to people who are legally here, and now we're going into the voting situation. If I didn't have any evidence to show that someone has taken a foreign nationalist driver's license that's not supposed to be used for federal ID and attempted to vote, I'd like to know where it happened and how frequently does it happen before we jump into this. I understand what you're doing, but you know, just to do everything just in case it's gonna happen, we already have probably more laws on the book than the average state. But for us to always look to say what could happen, anything could happen, do we always go back and do a law to prevent it from happening? I think that's my only concern about it. And that's just with the climate that we're living in right now, and how will it be perceived once we do it? If it does happen and somebody come and present one, then what does the clerk in that voting place do? Do they call the police? Will they misinterpret that, okay, they passed the bill and say you can't do this, so do we arrest this person for doing it? What does the law say will happen? What would be the impact of a person even if they did it because we passing this? Does your bill say? What happens?
Cannot use it to vote
What happens
in
if
our
they do?
elections, is what it says.
What happens? What happens? What happened, Representative, if they do?
You'll be arrested for violating our voters' law.
Okay, so
And
that's
should
what.
be, and should be.
Well, yes, they should, but it hasn't happened. Driving down the wrong side of the street, you should be arrested. But we haven't passed a law to say that.
Driving down the wrong side of the street?
Yeah,
Sure we do. You can't drive down the wrong side.
we know it. But how many times have we have what? Show me the passage that say the part of our laws that say you don't drive down the wrong side of the street. Who passed it? What year?
I think it was you, wasn't it?
No.
No?
Tell me.
It's on the books, trust me. You
Tell
can't-
me.
you
Show
can't-
it to me.
You can't drive down the wrong side of the street.
We know that. Show it to me. Show it to me. Since it's on the books, you the lawman.
I can show you this one if we pass it here today.
We don't need to pass this one. That's what I'm telling you. We
Why?
do not, because it's not necessary. You haven't shown me
Are you
any evidence.
Are you against foreign national? I mean, you're not supportive of them voting in our
I'm not,
elections,
but I
are
don't
you?
have to be. I can use my common sense if you don't give me the evidence to prove that it's happening.
If we've been issuing these IDs, and as you can see, they look just like an Alabama ID.
No, they don't. They said,
No, they-
first
they-
it says
they do.
foreign nationalist driver's license, not for federal identification.
We're gonna clear up any
And on the other
confusion
one,
at the polling.
the one you got
use it.
down here, if they haven't seen an Alabama's driver's license, it don't have FN identification on it, and it doesn't have written under that, not for federal identification. Is that what's on your driver's license? Not for federal identification? Or do you have FN on your driver's license?
I don't think
Show it
so.
to me.
You want me to show it to you?
Yeah.
Show me yours.
Mine's back in my
Let me
office.
see yours.
Mine's in my office.
Last time
You're
I
the
looked
one
at
with the
mine,
bill.
mine was expired. But
Yours
when I
was
ran down,
expired?
Well, I was in the great.
Are you still driving?
Was.
You haven't renewed it?
Was.
You haven't renewed your driver's license?
I've renewed them.
So
I'm
maybe
afraid to check now.
you're afraid to check now to see if it's got FN identification, not for federal identification on there? I don't think mine's have it on there.
You don't think?
It doesn't have that centers under mine, right under the state of Alabama. It doesn't have not for federal identification on there. nor on top of the state of Alabama, the lettering. It doesn't say FN identification. It doesn't.
All this bill says you cannot use it.
So why
In
do
our
we need it?
elections.
So why we need it? Nobody had, unless you can show me the people
There's
that
always somebody. that's gonna
have you, can you,
get around the law.
how many
There's always
times,
somebody.
how many somebodies have done it? Can you tell me?
I'm running
What
out,
and
you're running
where?
out of time.
What election did it happen?
These are fairly new IDs. We're just making sure that
The chair
you know,
thanks
Yeah.
the lady. Your time
Thank
has
you.
expired.
How much?
The chair recognizes Chairman Ingram from Montgomery. He is the fourth speaker on the BIR.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a great bill. I've had an international driver's license. I would hate to know that somebody could walk into a voting precinct and say, I'm not on the roster to vote, but can I vote provisional? And I'm sure that if it hadn't happened, it could happen in the future. It's a good preventive bill, and I appreciate you bringing it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The question is on adoption of the BIR. Those in favor will vote aye, and those opposed will vote no. Clerk, unlock the machines, and the members will vote.
I got it, sir. Thank
Have all the members voted? The clerk will lock the machines and record the vote.
you. Oh,
There are 75 yeas, 4 nays, 18 abstentions, and HB 480 has passed. Oh, I'm sorry, for the BIR. The question is on passage of the bill. I was trying to speed
no
things up for you,
questions. I
Freddie.
move for passage of the BIR. I mean, final passage.
Okay. The chair recognizes Representative Yarborough from Morgan County.
Thank you for the recognition. This is a great bill, and it has happened actually in Alabama. There's a great article in 1819 News where there were actually several election workers in distress who reached out to the news, 1819, and other news outlets because their election, the director not only told them to take foreign national licenses for voting because they could scan it because we're the ones that gave them the licenses, she even sent them pictures of their PowerPoint slides showing the foreign national ID licenses to receive, to vote. So it's a great article. Y'all can look it up, but it has happened. And her reasoning for it was that Department of Homeland Security under the previous administration said, well, they're working on becoming citizens, which is obviously ridiculous. And so it has happened, and they were being told to by their election director there in this particular county. So it's a good bill. It has happened, and we need to stop it. So thank you.
Appreciate that information.
Sure, thanks, gentlemen. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Gavan.
Ready? No, I came up here. I was a hitter for Treadaway. I went up to the speaker. The speaker ran me off the dais. Wasn't nothing happened up here. That's my guy. He be looking out for me. Me and him fall out every now and then, but for the most part, watch my back most of the time. At least, Mr. Speaker, at least maybe 10% of the time he look out for me. Would you not say Treadaway? Or are you trying to ignore me?
No, go ahead.
Listen, I'm torn on fighting on a lot of these bills this year for a couple of reasons. And I think I said it early on this year because for a lot of us that tried to explain a lot of things that were going to happen, and we were ignored. Now the impact is a greater impact on those who chose not to listen. So not a lot of calls are being made and stuff like that. So I'm torn. Shared with one of our colleagues at the beginning of the session that I'm conflicted out on a lot of issues, all because folks didn't want to listen. But if you don't mind explaining to me what your bill does And especially, I think what Representative Moore was saying about the identification and whatever, I still don't see how this is going to stop anyone from voting. I've raised this issue in the past, and I'll continue to speak on it when we deal with voter fraud, when we deal with these issues of voter infringement. We have nothing that we come back and forth, not one time, year in and year out, about people who cross vote from one community to another. That is the biggest, if you had to count voter fraud, because nobody ever enforces the law. Folks can have moved out of the neighborhood 30 years, never changed the voter registration, got married and raised children, has grandchildren, and they still vote. Counties and cities over, and we do nothing. And I see Representative Jones up there. I raised this issue in committee just the other day. And that is the biggest form of voter fraud in the state of Alabama. And nobody does anything about it, day in and day out, year in and year out. Some of the people that run against us and seek us out in all kind of violations. But we continue to bring all these bills that very seldomly, if there is any impact, year in and year out. So if you don't mind, Mr. Treadaway, if you don't mind helping me out, give me a little understanding, because you didn't come to committee last week when this came into committee. You had a representative that spoke up for you. They did a halfway decent job. You know, why do people always smile when I come to the microphone when you up here, Treadaway? What is it?
Why I always smile?
I said, why not you? Why do people laugh and smile when I come up to the microphone, to the well when you up here? You don't know?
I don't know.
So tell me what this bill is about.
All right. So we issue foreign national license/IDs. And where some of the confusion comes from, and I didn't articulate this earlier, is what we found out.
You said articulate? That's a big word, isn't it?
It was
all right.
for a cop.
I'm glad your mama
Yeah.
sent you to school. Go ahead.
All right. You want me to explain it, or you gonna?
You're going to try? Okay, come on.
right.
Let's go. This is what I have to put up with.
So, some of them get their citizenship, and they don't go get their state ID. Then they try to vote because they got their citizenship with this, or as we just heard, as it was relayed to me earlier, that this is causing confusion at the polling place. Number one. Number two, you're a foreign national and you are not a U.S. citizen, you should not use this ID, a foreign national ID / driver's license, whatever you want to call it, to vote. That's all the bill does. It's a real simple bill. And I believe you would agree on that. That you don't think a non-U.S. citizen over here with a foreign national's license should walk into a polling place and vote. You don't agree with that, right?
I'm going to do something.
You don't agree with that, right?
And I ask you all questions.
But you don't agree with that.
Nobody ever understands a simple question.
That was it. I just explained it.
I
You
said I'm
explain
going to do something that you
But you
people
don't agree
not
with that, do you?
And I'm going to answer the question.
Okay.
Now, let me just tell you what I believe. What I believe is that we have some bigger fish to fry when it comes to voter fraud in the state of Alabama. I don't have a dog in the fight one way or the other with this bill. Do you hear me? But what I do have a problem.
You support it.
What I do have a problem with is these people who continue to crisscross votes across the city, across the state, across different communities, from county to county, that should not be voting where they vote.
Absolutely agree.
And we have not done one freaking thing. And I have been saying that, and it pisses me off because we continue to come in here with a fact, like maybe 2 people might have a problem with a driver's license, but do you know how many people in this state are voting that should not be voting where they vote, and it is clearly defined in violation of the law? So, and we're not doing anything to address that issue, and it is beginning to frustrate me because I guarantee you, if you count the number of people who do that, you're going to have a massive number of what can be considered voter fraud at this point. Because what you all have brought me, 1 or 2, I get it. anytime you're dealing with numbers, things are going to slip through the cracks. So do I have a problem? I told you I don't necessarily have a dog in the fight, because when I tried to speak to folks about Project 2025, they didn't listen. So I'm dealing with a lot of this stuff totally on a whole different level. Totally. Even with my Latino friends, I'm struggling. So I'm not as vocal about some things, because at some point you got to listen when people try to tell you the truth. But if anybody can sell 5 folks in hell. So at the end of the day, I get it, but I just wanted to continue to stress the point, since the good people from the good Secretary of State's office is in this building, and I have said this time and time again, I do not know what we can do, Representative Jones, if it's anything Mike Jones, Attorney Jones, Judge Jones, whatever name you got today. I just hope we can come up with something on this particular issue, because it is the largest form of voter fraud in this state. And we do not, to this day, nobody has brought a bill. And I cannot understand it. So my question is, do we really want to stop voter fraud in the state of Alabama? Because I'm not here to push anybody's agenda, but I just have always said that, and those things that I'm strong in, I'm strong in. I've been able to pass a constitutional amendment out of here. I've passed 20 single solo sponsored bills. I'm good if I never pass another one. But I would like us, when we're dealing with a specific subject, to bring legislation that it has an impact, to where we then see where there's true voter fraud and those issues, not just because it's attached to a certain foreign group or ethnicity or something like that. That's my whole thing about it. Like I said, I appreciate you and your efforts, and I want to make sure you was calm from a little while ago. I know that subject was very sensitive to you, and every now and then when something gets sensitive to me, you will call and check on me and cuss me out in between time. You heard me tread it. So I just wanted to bring that issue to the floor, but I appreciate it.
Sure, thanks, lady. Question for the body now is final passage of HB 480. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Recorded vote, 76 ayes, 5 nays, 21 abstentions. HB 480 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call the next bill.
On page 39 of the calendar, House Bill number 465 by Representative Stubbs, relating to the Alabama Emergency Management Agency.
Representative Stubbs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Body, this bill is pertaining to the state EMA. Director Smitherman and their organization does a great job serving the state. This allows them to expend money that they are already allocated on materials for education purposes and public awareness regarding emergency situations. And with that, I ask for the BIR.
As questions, adoption of the BIR. Clerk unlock the machine and the members vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Court votes 99 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If there are no further questions, I ask for final passage of
That is questions, final passage of HB 465. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Recorded vote 100 ayes, 0 nays. HB 465 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Clerk, call next bill.
On page 32 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 138 by Senator Smitherman, relating to convicted felons.
Chairman Lovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the recognition. Some of these Senate bills we haven't really been able to review much, and so I'd make a motion we carry it over.
All in favor say aye. Aye. The bill has been carried over. Clerk, call the next bill.
On page 29 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 183 by Senator Carnley relating to the Machis Lower Creek Indian Tribe.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's another one of these Senate bills we really hadn't had time to properly review. I make a motion we carry over.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? It has been carried over. Clerk, call the next bill.
On page 46 of the calendar, House Bill number 492 by Representative Pettis relating to juvenile offenders.
Representative Pettis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What this bill does, it allows a 14 or 15-year-old to be treated as the same way as a 16-year-old under watercraft or under driving. That asks for the BIR.
Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 84 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted.
Ask for final passage.
Next question, final pass of HB 492. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote.
Want me to open up for co-sponsor?
Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 70 ayes, 0 nays, 22 abstentions. The bill has passed.
Mr. Speaker, I've been asked to open this up for co-sponsor.
Mr. Clerk, let's open this up for co-sponsors, please. Like you got 11 co-sponsors.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call the next bill.
On page 40 of the calendar, House Bill number 8 with substitute by Representative Drummond relating to the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board.
Representative Drummond, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'm hoping the third time is the charm. I have been fighting for 3 years for our children, and this body has passed this same piece of legislation out of the House. And I must say, and I'm proud, unanimously, and one thing that I remember, even Representative Mooney was not here, but he called and said, make him an affirmative. So I am so appreciative of this bill. This is a vaping bill. Again, one of the things that we're trying to do in 2019, we passed a pre-market registry, which showed a lot of the bad stuff that is on the market. But we did not put funding in the bill for enforcement. This piece of legislation has money for enforcement as well as education, because as you all know, vaping is horrible when it comes to our children. We don't know what's in those products. And for me, my passion for this issue came when a kid was killed in Selma or Dallas County, and his vape pipe was laced with fentanyl, and he subsequently died. And the superintendent called to notify me. I have worked with more folks on this bill than I care to tell you all. So this is a bill that a whole lot of stuff is in, but it's a good bill for the health and the welfare of our children. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I call for the BIR. There's a sub on the bill. Do you? Okay.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Marshall, Representative Colvin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Drummond, I'm supportive of your bill, but I do have a question. So yesterday, I was actually walking my dogs back home, and a police officer stopped me and asked me, what are we doing to crack down on minors vaping in Alabama? And I said, well, I think my good friend Representative Drummond has a bill on the floor tomorrow about this issue. And his question was, and I think I read it in the bill, but I want you to confirm for me, like, Are there any punishments in the bill or any accountability matters if a minor's caught in possession of these products?
I wouldn't
now?
call it punitive, but if they're
Yeah,
caught on
any-
school campuses, there is a fine, but we give them an opportunity. And it's on the third time that they're caught. Because I have met with charter schools, private schools, and even schools that have orphans into them. And all of them wanted some sort of punitive measures because these things are not cheap. So on that third offense, you'll see that they'll have to pay a fine of $50.
Okay.
But they also will have to go to classes, which the curriculum will be established by the Department of Education.
Yeah. What are the first and second offense? What are those?
Well, we pretty much are warnings.
Okay.
And the second time, it's a warning with that little citation, but there's no money. It's on the third offense.
Gotcha. Any community service in there, anything like that? Is it
Yes.
and is it only in
Yes.
schools, or is it if I'm caught in public?
Let me tell you the other part of it, that there is community service because right now, and again, this is all about our kids. Right now, I've had judges who I've had to work with on this bill. They didn't know where to send these kids. These kids were going to adult courts because they're doing it on school campuses. And so they would just call the resource officers because they repeatedly did it. Now they will go to juvenile court where their records will be expunged.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate you bringing this bill. These products have to be just terrible for kids and adults, and I appreciate what you're doing.
I'm glad to hear you say that. Thank you, Representative Coleman.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Van.
I don't know why every year I think this bill passed the Senate.
Well, it got all the way to the last day, and someone from Jefferson County, they were not against this bill. They just killed that whole county.
Oh, I already know. 'Cause
Yeah,
I know
so it was
tell me
it was
about
not this bill. It passed.
Listen, I'm glad you
And
said
so I'm
that.
fighting to get it up
Now,
there before the last
And I'm
day.
glad you said that because I told the speaker last year now the same way, and I don't care if it's in my delegation or not, Republican or Democrat, that if they're bold enough to stand up and kill our bills, then Mr. Speaker, you need to look out for your members down here. So I'm glad she said that because we had a lot of good bills that was killed last year.
Well,
Yeah, I don't think that's right. So I was glad to see Lovern stand up here today.
And Representative, let me tell you that they are working on that, and that's why we're trying to get this bill out early.
Well, I certainly hope so, but I just wanted to just speak on that because, that happened to me last year, and I had been down here 14 years, and I ain't never had a bill that went on the Senate floor that left from down here that didn't pass out. So, but by the time we were able to stop one or two of their bills, they had already passed out 2 or 3 of their significant bills, but I certainly hope that that is not the case this time, and especially when it gets bottlenecked in between other person's issues, and then they get mad and all that stuff. But I don't care about that. But I just wanted to know because I've told several people over the years that the bill had passed and that we had a vaping bill. But I didn't know, especially last year, that the bill didn't get out. But what are your amendments this year, though? Did you make some amendments? I know somebody.
No, someone else made an amendment in committee, and that
And
is
one
in
of
the
them
sub.
you took, but one of them
I did not
you
take.
did not. And what did the committee ultimately do? I was in there, but you stood your ground. I was proud of you.
Well, I don't. Anyway.
Yeah,
it's
well,
in
we
the,
good.
The committee put an amendment on the bill.
Well, they put it. Okay, well that's fine. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's not watering down the bill or anything like that, is it?
No.
Okay. Well, that's good. Well, listen. I'm like this about the smoking and the drinking. I don't have a dog in the fight one way or the other.
Well, yes, you do. You got a dog in the fight. We want these kids to be healthy.
Yeah,
and
do.
these are not healthy options for
No,
them.
the cigarettes are not healthy. The vaping is not healthy. But we also, this is just my argument, we live in a society in which people are going to do it. My thing is to cut down on the manufacturers. When you're bringing a bill that is tied to an apparatus to stop doing something, I don't care how you bring it, who your friend is, how good your friend is, what you say your friend and did for you, and what you can get from them. You carrying a bill for a manufacturer to make money off an apparatus or an instrumentality that moves through interstate commerce. The rich get richer. Now, however you want to fix it up, that's on you. So for me, it's when we're passing those types of bills, and I've said that since the first day I've come down here, I'm very particular about certain bills that I do carry. Because if there's an attachment or a device to it outside of just something that's specifically for help, not talking about you, because at the end of the day, the vapors are going to figure something else out, just like with the marijuana. At the end of the day, you have now not just the marijuana seed, you have the marijuana, the marijuana this, the marijuana that, the gummy, to the cookie, to the Play-Doh.
Well, see, Representative, you got on those nice boots today.
Girl,
And we gotta have what, boots on the ground?
Boots on the ground.
And we gotta stump all of this out.
I'm glad for you. Like I said, I'm not here to, because like I said, I've been telling people that you passed the bill, and I hope that you get it out, and I hope that it doesn't get bottlenecked upstairs, you know, for whatever reason. So I certainly hope that you get it out. But I support it. You know, I've supported it every year. I support it, and I think, you know, it's a good bill for those who, you know, I'm not a vapor and smoker or whatever, but, you know, to each his own. But if that'll help the children, I just want to make sure we get the cannabis out of the candy and all of those things as it relates to our kids. But whatever I can do, I certainly do support it. And especially because you're actually not pushing an apparatus or an instrumentality. You're just pushing the fact that we're trying to ban it, period. And what that will look like. I think that makes more sense than anything. But I appreciate the opportunity to come before you to speak on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, thanks, lady. Question for the body is adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 97 ayes, 1 nay. The BIR has been adopted. Representative Drummond.
Mr. Speaker, I call for the adoption of the sub.
You care to tell me what the sub is?
The sub is just one amendment, and as Representative Gavan pointed out, it's not an amendment I am in favor of, but it's an amendment that was put on page 30. It says each certifying e-liquid manufacturer and manufacturer of alternative nicotine products shall pay an initial fee of $2,000 to offset the cost. Well, let me go down, and the commissioner shall collect this annual fee. So it was the amendment that was put on the bill in committee.
Question for the body is adoption. That Ms. Hall, you don't talk on the bill? Oh, okay, I got you. Ms. Clerk, let's unlock the machine and let the members vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 86 ayes, 9 nays. The amendment has been adopted. Representative Drummond.
Mr. Speaker, I call for the adoption of the bill as subbed.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Henry, Representative Ream.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Drummond, can you explain to me how this is going to keep these products out of the hands of children?
Well, for one thing, in 2019, we passed a e-market registry that was tailored after the federal registry in the first term of the Trump administration. And since then, that registry has been established by the Department of Revenue, and we've got a number of bad products that are on the registry, but we failed to give any revenue to ABC and Aaliyah to enforce when they go. I admit it now. I thought they could go in when they're doing cigarette enforcement and look for stamps, but vape products are a lot more complicated. So this bill is going to create about $2.5 million for enforcement.
Okay, that's my second question. So how is that money going to be raised?
I can't hear you.
How is that money, the $2.5 million,
2.5 million is going to be spent by, and the distribution is in the bill, but most of it will go to ABC and Aaliyah for enforcement.
So my question is, how is that money raised?
I actually worked with the convenience stores and the wholesalers. So this money will come derived from annual fees that they will pay. One is one-time fee and other fees, but they're going to actually pay those dollars, and that's how much it will create, and it's going to go to enforcement. And then the fees that are in the bill for the punitive side that Representative Colvin was talking about, those will go for us to create a curriculum to educate our children on how bad these products are and their parents.
So my understanding that the industry is going to pay for the infrastructure and the enforcement of their own industry.
Definitely.
Okay.
I mean, if I had my way, I'd make them all pay. But yes,
Okay.
we have worked on this bill for this is our third year.
So this doesn't raise a tax?
No.
Taxes at all? Okay.
No, they're paying for the enforcement.
Thank you for the explanation. Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the lady from Macon, Representative Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the young lady yield?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to come down and commend your persistence. You know, sitting up there by me, I think you have seen. If at first you don't succeed, try again, 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 and again. I tried 7 years to get one bill passed, but I never gave it up. And that's what I have seen with you with this bill. This bill is really designed to protect our children and to protect our adults. You know, until we got into this vape situation, I didn't realize how serious it was, you know, because, you know, you walk in the store and you see all that stuff, and everything, I always looked at it as being energy stuff. That's an energy thing. I don't want nothing with energy. But I have learned in the process of dealing with you that these are very dangerous articles that are being sold in the public with no restrictions. So keep working. You know how the Senate is. Keep praying, and God will deliver you, okay? Because you have worked very, very hard on this bill, and I just commend you on your efforts, and no matter what comes up, stay solid as you are now. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
Chair thanks the lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lauderdale, Reverend Pettis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have an amendment.
Clerk, see the amendment.
Amendment to House Bill number 8 by Representative Pettis.
Chair, to explain your amendment, please.
What my bill does, it makes it my amendment, it makes it restrictive to if you're a store that's 21 years and old or older, or if it's in a convenience store, it has to be in an age-restricted area. It can't just be all over the shelves where they could go by and pick them up. That's basically what it does.
How does the sponsor see the amendment?
I want to lay it on the table. I do not want this amendment on this bill again. Just as you came before me fighting for children, I am not dealing with anybody that's 21 and older. I don't want this on this bill. I am standing here. I have been standing for years for the health and the welfare of our children. I am so tired of special interests not taking our children into consideration. I am fighting for them today. I do not want this amendment on this bill.
Okay, you've heard the sponsor's request. If you are for the amendment, your vote will be yes. If you're not for the amendment, your vote will be. A motion to table. I'm sorry.
Yeah, motion to table.
Okay, so if you are for let me rephrase that. If you're for tabling the motion, your vote will be yes. If you're not, your vote will be no. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 59 ayes, 36 nays. The amendment has been tabled.
Thank you.
Thank the gentleman.
Mr. Speaker, I call for the adoption the bill as sub.
That is questions, the passage of the bill as substituted. Clerk will unlock the machine, the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 89 ayes, 9 nays, HB 8 has passed as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members.
Thank the lady. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Pro Tem Pringle. Okay, wait a minute. Mr. Pro Tem, wait, we got a couple of time sensitive Representative Betso. Yeah, okay. Chair recognizes Representative Betso for a time sensitive resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for a time-sensitive resolution. This deals with our Law Enforcement Medal of Honor ceremony that will be conducted on Thursday.
All those in favor say aye. Thank you. Chair recognizes Representative Drummond for a time-sensitive resolution.
Mr. Speaker, will you suspend the rules for a time-sensitive resolution?
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is suspended.
A resolution commending Stephanie Lawford Streeter for her many years of professional achievement, and she is the executive director of the Mobile County DHR, so this is for the Mobile County Legislative Delegation.
Clerk, see the resolution.
Resolution by Representative Drummond.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Pro Tem Pringle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to remind you of the Alabama Legislative Sportsman Caucus breakfast tomorrow morning on the 6th floor of the RSA Plaza. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I move the House stand in adjournment.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.